Hello everybody and welcome to the last chance tournament, UD6. I almost forgot what we were about to do today. How are you doing, Mythical?
I'm doing good as always, Twin. We had the most exciting, closest tournament that we've in the September finals, and this one shaping up to kind of not be so much. We're qualifying the top four, and the top four have separated themselves from the rest of the pack by a good 140 points or so. It's going to be hard for anyone else to catch them, but amongst themselves, they could be fixing to give us a pretty close race. So to remind everyone what's going on with the UD season, we are at the very end, pretty much. This is the last chance for anyone to qualify for the Grand. Then in Grand Finals, players will be competing for the prize that is being one of the four to compete in the Ultimate Finals live at the end of the month, 27th and 20th of October in Fougères, I believe is the pronunciation. I'll have to work on my pronunciation.
Yeah. No, it's actually going to be great. And we decided to cut the top four pretty much because of what you are seeing on this tournament. The top four, Melwest, Super Lingot, Bermundo, and Ghostess, actually deserve a shot in the grand final, competing against everyone, because the skill level they've reached, it completely surpassed any of our expectations. And even Silent Mars, LF, and Zigwigwi, who are like very good runners, actually feel like it's not even worth continuing maybe for them, and I hope they do keep up the pace and keep on going, because it's still very fun to be speedrunning and racing. But certainly Melwest, with a total of 987 points, is actually looking maybe at the 2K final score. We'll see. Super Lingot, Bermundo very close together, so is Ghostess on the fourth place at 829. So this has been like an interesting day yesterday. Certainly some of the best races we've seen and some of the best performances in the UD6 ever on some of those games. And Melwest is totally threatening to keep on moving during the grand finals and maybe even the ultimate finals. So this is an interesting, like, maybe training ground for those four players, but they still have to be completing all those remaining 5 games. So we are going to do the Andes Night right now, and then Trials 2, DKC, Spectrable, and finishing the day with Eye of Sorrow. So that's going to be a lot of speedruns during the weekend. I hope the runners are well rested.
Well, speaking of the runners, we can take a look at their player cards. Melwest, one of the most decorated runners in the season right now, number 1 on the board with a bullet in grind. In race, I suppose number 1 has got to be Devil Tifa, the only one who seems to be able to rival Melwest in terms of performance, in terms of high scores anyway, in terms of consistency. There's maybe a discussion to be had about who should be there, but certainly Melwest is among the top in just overall performance. And you can see it on this player card. Look at these bars, almost all of them stretching all the way to the end. There's, what is it? It's got to be 9, yeah, and DKC, just like 4 and 7 points away from the 200 point mark on those games, almost getting the full 200 points on all 10 games. And a reminder, this 200 point mark is quite world record pace in most of these games, but it's pretty close. Like it's really not expected for players to get to 200 in any game, really. So the fact that players are exceeding it or reaching it across so many games is always hugely impressive to me.
Yeah, it shows how much the runners have practiced and learned all those runs. Bermundo card shows a different story. It shows that they haven't competed in a lot of races, but they actually are doing fantastic. They did fantastic yesterday with beating all their PBs, their race PB we are showing currently on the player card. It hasn't updated yet. And for today's game, like, the Andes Night is certainly going to be a strength, so is Castlevania Eye of Sorrow, but some of the games aren't. On the other end, Ghostess shows spectacular skill amongst all the games. Maybe not as high on every single game, but they're all fairly balanced, which is a good thing in a UD. You want to be good and confident in every single game, because one accident is going to be severely punished way more than one spectacular run. So being that good and that consistent is going to help them a lot, I think.
For sure, absolutely. It has been a huge story, I think, mostly just coming into the UD so late. Normally, it's so important to make the most of the time you have in the UD. It's a months-long process, so it sounds like it's a lot of time, but when you divide it over 10 speedruns, and it's 10, these are not partial game goals these are entire games that players have to learn how to speedrun. And it really only ends up being like a week to 2 weeks per game. So to have your 2 weeks cut down to 1 week and still be able to perform the way Ghost Death is very impressive. Salient to Mars was unable to finish in Metal Slug, actually. It was yesterday. So they are competing with like a 100-point deficit today. We'll see if they have a chance. You can see Donkey Kong Country we're going to be playing today. Not the greatest of Salient to Mars, but has a pretty good Aria of Sorrow PB, and can hold their own on something like The End Is Nigh. So it's a long shot, but if you want a dog to root for today, that's got to be Salient to Mars. And already did really well in some of the other games that we did play yesterday. You can see that Shovel Knight time pretty good at 53:48. One of the reasons why Shovel Knight was one of the most successful runs, I think, for everyone across the board yesterday. So is going to be happy to have joined the pack on that one. That's going to be our forerunners that we'll be focusing on for the start of today. I'm not sure if we'll shift our focus at any point, perhaps depending on the way things go. We'll just have to wait and see as we get ready for game number 1.
Yeah, it's going to depend both on their current position, but also on their stream quality. Superlink God had some issue yesterday, connectivity-wise, so we are going to try to bring you most of his gameplay, but sometimes we don't have much of a choice. And starting with The End Is Nigh, because indeed the UD6 end is pretty close, and this is the final tournament that's open to anyone. Next week it's the Grand Finals, and 2 weeks after it's the Ultimate Finals, and that's going to be an end to that exciting journey we've been coming along together. And it's been great. A lot of those games are super tough, but all the players are doing great, and The End Is Nigh is just a very cool, tiny platformer that brings a lot to the table, a lot of traps, a lot of movement, a lot of fast falling, and it's just been a very interesting speedrun, and race-wise, it's pretty good. The category is friend percent. The goal is to build the friend we are seeing right now, making Ash pretty happy about himself and having someone to talk to.
The End Is Nigh, I think, has been one of the games with the closest races that we've been able to get so far, and we might see something a little different today. The 150-160 point mark is about where people seem to plateau, and breaking through that point requires a huge amount of investment in learning the real ins and outs of the precision of grabbing ledges and jumping off of them and fast falling here, and not dying a lot. But it really is something that not a lot of people are able to do. But some of the players competing today have broken through. Mel West is at 196 points, Superlink got it at 183, and Barramon, someone has a higher PB than Mel West in a game for once, and it's Barramondo with 202. So we could be seeing a kind of almost like a higher tier of The End Is Nigh play than we've seen so far. It's definitely an incredibly hard game to be consistent at. One death is going to very likely cause you to take a couple more. It's one of these types of games where there's a sense of flow to it, and it's very hard when you die to stop thinking about what you were just about to do, because you and what you need to do because it's now staring you. That kind of thing will probably happen. It'll catch people, it'll trip them up, and so very tough game to smooth those kinds of things over when you're going for in a race. So I'm looking forward to seeing if we can get some new race records for this game, and you got a lot of people who are capable of it, I think.
The Endless Night has been a very tough game for every single players that's already qualified. So the best score is Brother Main at 196, and the second best score is Devil Tifa at 179. So it's been very hard. Nobody has quite broken the 190 mark since Brother Main in July. So it's been a while. So anything under 21 minutes is just fantastic. Anything under 22 is very good. Is faster than Devil Tifa's time. And just for the record, the current pace of the runners actually match what has been shown in the past, except for Melwest, that's exceeding every single expectation. So everybody is fairly close together if we are considering the 10 players that are potentially coming next week. Obviously, I'm not cutting off anyone from the Last Chance tournament because I do not hope and wish that for anyone, but you still need to finish all 10 games to be sure to be there. So every single of those games are actually pretty hard to speedrun and to beat on time because the cutoff times in the UD6 are extremely severe and, well, anything can happen. Those games are not that random, but very difficult execution-wise. The Endless Night starts with some pretty cool platforming in the end, the first world of the bunch. We are going to go through 9 worlds, divided into the first 3. Usually the players stay very close together, as we can see right now, exactly on the same jumps pretty much. And then we have the split, and that goes through 3 different sections, all of them made of 2 worlds, and at the end of the section we will find a part of a friend. 3 parts of the friend makes an entire friend, and that's the goal of the category. We've seen Melwest's first death, but except for that everybody seems to be great. Baramundo in the lead.
Yeah, as you can see, 1 death not going to cost you too much, especially if you're able to recover as quickly as Melwest was. But some stages are quite a bit longer. You can see there's a lot of, waiting for some moving piece to do something. And in these early levels, you're usually able to, it's moving because you're not supposed to stand on it. It's going away, and you need to move, and get past it while it's still there. But there are, moving elements later on in stages where you're just kind of waiting for it to get into place so that you can go. And so those levels tend to drag on a little bit more, and those are the ones that will hurt you a lot more if you happen to die. So, each individual death doesn't count for too much, but some pretty bad ones that players will hopefully not be taking. Certainly don't want to take any in a game like this. Bearmont did a good job quickly activating this moving wall. This is where this sort of thing starts to first pop up in the arid flats. Things are still pretty manageable in terms of difficulty. The players will be taking a couple little shortcuts here and there, but certainly it's really not too bad just yet. But once the players hit the split and they move on to the wall of swim, there's a pretty big spike in difficulty, though of difficulty in terms of getting some of those fast swimming sections done right. And those are the kind of things that really need to go right if you want to start pushing past this 150, 160 point mark.
It's very close, it's tight between Melwest and Baramundo. They're both going for all the fast falls and the best strats known in the game, because Des is slightly behind, not by much, but he's just losing time here and there due to every single tiny optimization the other 2 runners are doing. Xylendemos is very close behind Ghostdes, and Baramundo just has to wait here. Melwest took a couple of deaths, sadly. This is once again one of those speedrun where if you take 1 death, it's not that surprising to die again just because of the rhythm of the game. It's super short, and every single transition actually doesn't give you time to react properly. You have to know exactly where you're going, even without seeing what's happening to you. So just taking the time to adjust may lead to a couple of deaths in quick succession. But every single death doesn't cost too much. This is certainly the game in the UD6 where dying is the least punishing, and you might die about 50 times or 100 times on your first few runs just before getting a good hang on everything. Overflow World 3, where we start having the water physics and the quick swimming we were talking about.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes for Barramundo. The other players not quite reaching it yet. Sailing to Mars, reaching the shortcut in the arid flats. Very tough screen that pretty much everyone got through. I think Melwest died once, and that might have been about it. So they're on aim here, on point in this game. Melwest doing a pretty good job of preserving that horizontal speed, like we were saying. If you brush up against any wall, that's pretty much going to kill it, and you're going to get that slow speed, and it really does make a difference, especially once you get to the sort of the dirty water. I don't know what it is, but it will kill you. So it's a little more than dirty, and this character flash once, twice, and the third time. Look out, because you're going to die. And Melwa, a really good job of a skip there, skipping one of those little alcoves with that speed, like we talked about. But it's Barramundo who's going to maintain the lead for now. Melmus, not 20 seconds. So, there are short bits of load time in this, so the timers in the corners of the screen should be something you could look at to make sure that, if they're not quite in sync, then you know that one player has perhaps a second or two more of an advantage or disadvantage than it appears.
It's very close between the players. Like you can see the difference is maybe like 3 seconds. Melwest and Barramundo both ahead and having a better load times apparently, but it doesn't make much of a difference. Barramundo a little bit stuck apparently on that screen, letting Melwest gain some ground. It goes this and Sailing to Mars not stopping for anything, but once again the difference in PB is going to show even in those first 3 worlds. So Sailing to Mars right now, you can see they just know the game very well, but it's just like tiny moments where they're not using the fast fall or just like taking a little bit of time to set up a jump, and that's going to cost them. But every single skip is known, they clearly know how to chain jumps very well, just a tiny mistake here, but doesn't matter too much, they keep on going, and that's exactly what we want to do. Wall of Sorrow started for Melwest and Barramundo. Everybody is going to take the same direction in the split, and that's just for convenience in the watching the race, but also it's the habit that has formed in the Endosnai community, starting up in the Wall of Sorrow and then keep on going with the machine and Golgotha last. Probably because it's the most convenient order to grind, as we do the hardest world probably first.
Yeah, if you're gonna die, then you want to get that death out of the way early, reset, and keep going. It doesn't really impact a race where you don't get to do that. We do want the players to. If they split up, we would have a hard time figuring out who's in front. So for our sake, they are going to go ahead and follow those same conventions. Melwest with a death there, very short death, not one of the more costly ones, but it's the kind of thing that could cause the difference between him and Barramundo. They've been very close. They traded places about a minute or so ago. Barramundo with a death on this cloud section, but also a very quick death. Melwest is getting into some of the bird stages here. Here, one of the hardest ones. He resets immediately because he's trying to get this bird
Very
ride,
nice.
and it's
Wow.
beautiful.
Yeah, it is not easy to do. Manipulating those birds, you want to get them exactly where you want them to be. Barramundo failing the bird ride, so he goes the normal way, but dies in the process and sadly has to start again. The way Melwest tricked the bird to change direction in the middle of the ascension was very, very interesting. Sadly, those tiny deaths you are seeing right now on Melwest and Barramundo screen, they're not surprising, but they're costing them the sub 20. It's amazing how optimized this speedrun is. The world record is at 18 minutes, and just the tiny deaths you're seeing will prevent them to get sub 20. I do not know yet how to get anywhere close to sub 19. Lots of practice, lots of tiny optimization, like almost invisible to the eye, and obviously like exceptional execution.
can see just how exceptional the execution is of our players today. Melwest having trouble with threading the needle on that little bit of a jump there, but is past the rising blocks, is going to be the first one out of the Wall of Sorrow and up to the SS Exodus. Barramondo not too far behind, but has dropped back a little bit, is now on that same triple block screen. Ghost having trouble with birds. He's not going to try to go for a ride. He's going to wait out on the platform, sailing to Mars. Also trying to go for a bird ride here.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the thing. That second one is really good. They must have planned that this bird placement very, very well, because there's a number of ways in which they're perfectly aligned to screw you over when you go for this technique. So it really does have to go just so in order for everything to come together. He's going for another one, but he gets pincered by the clouds.
Yeah, the second one doesn't feel that worse. It's very hard, and you have that tiny ghost that kills you on the way. You can see that on the screen multiple times in a row. Gets it on the third try, but sadly dies due to the bird. And yeah, I do understand San Mars going for the same strat over and over again. They know that one, they just want to get it, but sometimes it just doesn't work, and you can get stuck in a weird loop where you're losing time, and but reverting to another strat might you cost even more. Gets it there finally, and now he's in the bird juggling section where he tries to keep on going, but he's stuck and dies even more. Gozdes, Melwest, and Barramondo in the SS Exodus. Melwest took the lead by about a screen. This is a long one. There's the craziest fast strat on that single screen where you are actually jumping way before and triggering the blocks to fall on you and just barely dodging that, and nobody is going for that, obviously, because lots of the faster strats are so risky, they're not even worth doing in the grind attempt.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing that a UD player would see or hear and go to. So they are going to be doing things much more safely and with much more consistency. Melwest, no deaths on this stage. This room is very tricky. We'll see if Barramondo is able to get through it. Something about the placement of these bullets is just exactly where you don't want them to be as soon as you come off that. Both players doing a good job avoiding that particular death. I've seen it trip up a lot of our UD players. Melwest is now into one of the easier rooms, just some nice big jumps over 2 bullets at a time, and probably not as easy as this room perhaps, but is now into more of these cannonball jumps, and nice job executing on those. He has acquired the first part of the friend. He's going to be using the map to go back to the split, and is going to be the first one to move on to retrograde.
So retrograde has some very interesting gimmicks to it. First, we can see those platforms, those bridges you can go through, jumping on or maintaining down and jumping, and with fast fall and tight jump timing, you can make that in one cycle. That's not very easy. This one you absolutely cannot make in one cycle, so you will see all the runners wait for that platform here. You want to jump exactly at the correct time, and usually the runners just do a good job at passing those few levels right after that. Knowing exactly the platform that are moving and how you trigger them will make those kind of level quite simple. Coming up though, some of the hardest level where everything starts falling on you and you cannot fail a single jump if you want to make it like not even quickly, just past the level is actually quite hard. This one tripped up to a lot of players just going for different strats, very nicely executed by Melwest here. You have multiple ways to do those.
Yeah, you can take out the top set of blocks like Melwest did, or you can chew out a space in the middle, and there's different ways of, do I grab a ledge or do I end on a platform entirely? I've seen that tower done 5 or 6, 7 different ways, and none of them seem to be really all that much better or faster than others. They're all quite comparable, so it's more of what players are used to running through that one guy thing and encountering 3 more behind Melwest, but 1 full screen and a half perhaps. But those turrets are going to get a lot worse as they get to the machine, which is where Melwest is going to reach first by a fair margin over our other two competitors. Ghost Death is pretty early on in retrograde here, literally on the first screen, and Sailing to Mars is still on the Exodus. So our top two players are really starting to pull away from the bottom two.
Yeah, this is Ghost Death's worst game, I think. His PB is at about 24 minutes. That put them about 30 to 40 points behind what you could expect from West and Bermuda, which is quite a lot. Usually the runners are fairly packed in about like 10 to 15 points in between the first and fourth, but this one is going to put Ghost Death in not that big of a trouble, but just overall, if they want to come back maybe to second or first place, it's going to certainly not help. And Melwest just being that great at every single game we throw at them is not going to let anyone pass today, I think. Bermundo in the machine, so is Melwest, one of the longest level in the game. You really don't want to die on those tiny spikes at the end. Those jumps don't seem that hard, but when you have about 10 seconds of time to lose, they certainly are a lot more difficult, but they just never stop. It's pretty great to watch. Bermuda starting the room right now. Sailing Mars is going to end at the Exodus right after the Cannonball level, and that level is actually way harder than those guys make it look. Like, it's not that easy to get the correct timing to jump on those cannonballs, and if you don't clear the gaps exactly like the way you want them, it's not going to work. So, but nobody is tripped up by those levels. When you start to practice well enough, you can get it pretty consistent.
It is tough though, because the usual cue, like the cannonball you're jumping to, is usually not shot yet before you need to jump, so you don't even get to see what you're jumping to until you've already pressed. So difficult. Melwest had simply one death in the machine that was pretty costly, but otherwise has been very solid. Mondo have been very solid as well, kind of in the same room or coming up on it, but Melwest is going across the top of it, and Bearmont is actually not going to get there before Melwest leaves, so we don't even get to see our pseudo high five. There's Bearmont finally getting into that room now. Melwest pulling away a little bit in one of these really long rooms. This one is thankfully not too hard, not much danger of dying to get past the inconvenient jumps. So in a long room with some backtracking, any room you have to backtrack is quite long, and generally that means you're going to lose a lot of time if you die. And now a very short room, but very tricky room with the spikes moving back and forth, very well executed by Melwest, short hopping just over these spikes, avoiding the ceiling traps. He's looking really good here.
Those two rooms here are, probably the trickiest of the machine. This one you have to jump exactly correctly to grab the key, and this one you have the most fierce machine gun in any video game. I like the little left-right they did just to get the correct patterns on the bullets, just to be sure they would not be shot in the head. Very nice safety, and Melwest once again is showing that they've practiced for the races or just for the grind, but to be sure they're safe enough and consistent enough to not lose their sanity in the process. So I really like the style they're showing right now as a speedrunner, and I'm a little bit bummed out that they did not join in any other tournament or did not join the community that much, because they had a lot to teach to the other runners. So it's always like, some players I feel like should have taken like lessons from Melwest runs. Anyway, the hollows is going great. As soon as I saw that, they died obviously, and died again. This is surprising. Bermuda joining Melwest in the hollows. Ghost Death and Sailing Mars should be going through the machine fairly quickly, but they're about a minute and a half behind now.
That is more than I think in this game. Like it kind of a lot, but it is those seconds and minutes will. You can get a lot done with a minute. It's a lot of screens, so a sizable lead for both Melwest and Barramundo. and we'll see if they're able to continue it. Certainly, the Hollows is not the most difficult of sections compared to, some of the stuff that they just did and some of the stuff they'll be doing in Golgotha. It is the second to last area of the game, and Melwest died once there, but he is through. It's a little brighter than it's supposed to be here in the Hollows. The players have there's a number of games that seem to get quite a bit easier when you jack up the brightness as much as the players have, and this is one of those examples. So you are able to follow some of these traps in places where you're not supposed to. That certainly helps players keep where they're going to be. A little bit of it there. Barramundo trying to cut a corner quickly as Melwest is now to Golgotha. Get used to this bright red. It's going to be filling your screen the next little bit. One of the biggest hazards, I think, of the stage, if not the lava or the chain chomps.
Oh, the chain chomps, man. Definitely the chain chomps.
They're pretty bad.
Yeah, they're going to come at you very fast. You do not have that nice trigger time you have on Mario Brothers. They're just coming at you. Those enemies we are seeing on screen, though, not that frightening. If you go just through the level normally, you can pretty much ignore them. And also about ignoring, you've seen the runners totally skip the tumors that you have one per level, and you do not need those. So you will eventually take one or two by mistake or just because it's there, but you do not need them as they're extra. Oh wow, surprising death here. Melwest trying to cut the level a little bit short and just going a little bit early on those spikes. But yeah, you don't need the tumors for that specific category. Oh, wow, that strat on Golgotha 14 just coming through and cleared the level very quickly.
That was I was getting ready to talk about one of the hard levels in the game, and he just breezed right through it. Fantastic job from Melwest. We'll see how it goes. The last section of Golgotha is based around these fast-moving blocks, riding them around this way and that way, or not riding them around this way or that way. There's a couple strats where you actually bait out the block to go, you can get it out of your way. I was going to say that we could from Barramundo, but something's happened with his stream, but it looks like he is through 14th, and here we go. You can see him baiting out that block, and it's very hard to get. I mean, it's easy to get the block to go up and squished, but then back over to the very tricky. Melwest finishing up Golgotha, finishing up the game in about a 2050 or so, 2053, showing the timer. Very, very. I'm not the god sub 20 run we were hoping to see, but definitely one of the fastest times of the UD.
Yeah, dude, I've said it. Sub 21 is exceptional. It's over 190 points, and that's way better than what a lot of players are able to do in a race. Barramundo is going to be very close behind Melwest, finishing at 21:17, very good time. You see the runners actually die intentionally, like reset the screen when they are building the friend. That allows for better and faster friend building process. I do not know, like it's you are Dr. Frankenstein building his monster. It's pretty creepy, but there's through that with the game. The category has been completed. We can see LF on screen in the Hollows, a little bit behind Ghost Death, but not by much. And Silendemore started the world a couple of seconds ago.
So it is fairly close between these three. This kind of lead could change over the course of just the last little bit of the game here, depending on probably mostly on Golgotha and some of those later levels like 14. For now, we got literally the same screen for LF and Ghost Death, matching each other neck for neck, taking deaths in just kind of being too slow to get out of the water. That's not a very common death, so I'm kind of surprised that both players take it at the same time. I wonder, is everything okay with the streams? We got two different streams, right? We're not, yeah, okay. Ghost Death is indeed Ghost Death and not LF, and is the first one to Golgotha. We got Super Link God, right? Again, stream. Well, he's not in Golgotha, but he is done, so we'll see what his final time is, but it should be about 22:50. Congratulations to that.
It's Super Link God has been a little bit behind Melwest during the entire day yesterday, close to Barramundo and Ghost Death, but they might be able to pull back ahead by a fair margin today. It's going to be decided mostly by DKC, Spectrable, and Eye of Sorrow. Those 3 games cost a lot of time to a lot of players, and apparently something happened to Vandal's stream, as they are only at the start of the game with the timer paused at 3:09. I do not know what happened. Ghost Death and LF on the same screen, so very close race between those two. LF is currently in 6th place, but only at 500 points or so, so that's 300 behind 4th place, so that might be difficult to catch up with. And Salem are starting Golgotha right now. They have a lot of time to beat the game. The cutoff is at 30 minutes, so we'll have a lot of the end is night to talk about still. And Golgotha is... I do not know if it's one of the easiest world or one of the hardest. I never know. It's hard to tell just because of some tiny screens that are costing a lot of time to a lot of players.
Yeah, it's a world of highs and lows, really. There's a pretty even consistency to all the rooms in the SS Exodus and in the Machine, but Golgotha has some really easy levels and then some really hard levels, and they're in one of the hardest right now, LF and Ghost Death. LF was hanging on that ledge. He's looking to bait out the chain chomp a little bit low, so he's able to get over it. Both players in sync, getting out of 14.
Yeah, I like how we are saying so much that it's one of the hardest, but since it's so hard, everybody walked on that level, and now nobody dies on 14 anymore. It's pretty amazing. But the couple of levels right after that, it's all about baiting those blocks that rush at you, and it's not that easy to do. LF is showing off some very nice strats, so does Ghost Death. They're both almost done. This is the final screen of the run, just about to get your old friend body. It's done for Ghost Death. LF took a very small death, and sadly for them, Ghost Death passed them in the very few last levels of Golgotha. Final time for Ghost Death 25:17. I don't know how they are going to feel about that.
Yeah, the Ghost Death's PB is a 24:19, so too far off of that. It's not really something to be too, something to beat yourself up over. Maybe you wanted to do better, but it's really not that bad a run. It's just in comparison to what Barramondo and Mel West were able to do, and to, compared to their PBs, were about the same amount off as Ghost Death was to his. It was just the difference in time or skill level or whatever that the players have been able to achieve in this run. So in terms of what he could expect, he's right in executing. It was just a difference in skill level really that determined this. So he's going to have to play from behind. Certainly the top 4 are likely to stay our top 4, but it does matter a little bit in terms of, I don't know, you might be a little more confident going into grand finals knowing that you were able to beat out some of your opponents in the last chance tournament, and more than that, I think everyone just wants to do their best for doing their best's sake. So we'll see how our top 4 shifts or changes. Ghost Death going to drop back a little bit, very good, start to make a comeback over some of the other game.
On screen right now, Vandal is actually discovering the game. This is the last chance tournament, meaning also this is the last chance to join or to play any game on stream. So Vandal is actually taking the opportunity to join in the fun, or apparently just stopping right now. But 27 minutes in, maybe some runners aren't done yet because the cutoff is at 30 minutes. Is it 30? Yeah, it is 30, right? Yeah. It's been 5 months and I still cannot remember any number. But here is the current leaderboard, and as you've said, Ghost Death is falling a little bit behind because of the Antis 9.
This is a 45-ish point gap here for Ghost Death, and with 4 games left to play, 10 games over each one, it's doable, but it's going to be pretty hard for Ghost Death to mount a comeback here. But it's certainly not the kind of gap that Salient Damaris is facing to crack the top 4. It is it's becoming more and more of a long shot with each game that the players compete in. And Mel West continues to just dominate here. It claimed 150 points ahead of second place with this performance in the Endesnai. You know, I've been wondering if Mel West is going to hit 2,000 points across all 10 games in a race. It would be a mind-blowing achievement.
It is.
He's on.
Yeah, it is interesting because Trials 2 and Spectrable, you can score a lot of extra points. Eye of Sorrow, you can get close to 200, but beating the 200 live in race is pretty tough. And so is the KC. The KC is a crazy game, crazy speedrun, obviously very optimized. The world record has been, for all stages, has been beaten quite recently and by like a second or two. And it's been quite a ride for a lot of players, so you can expect Mel West maybe getting 210, 220 on both Trials and Spectrable, allowing them to clear the gap and to reach the 200 or above average that they are maybe aiming for. And yeah, on-screen Trials 2, this is certainly one of the fan favorites and a very interesting speedrun, as you are riding a motorcycle that doesn't really obey to any understandable law until like you actually have the controller in hand and you start playing around with it. But it's certainly a great game and very arcadey, feeling retro with the Flash games back in the 2000. Elastomania actually kind of started the genre. And right now we are seeing the second game that has been published on the Xbox 360 first, I think, and is now on PC as well.
It's one of my favorite games to watch. For me, something like Inertia or Story About My Uncle is really fun for me to watch, just because the runners are good enough and they're able to flow from one jump to the next way that just carry me away. Whereas this is fun to watch because you never know if everyone is just teetering on the edge of disaster at all times, and you never know when it's going to fall over. So watching this unfold and watch players that dance is a treat. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the players are able to do. It's something that we've seen. I think it was kind of like Skunk Off was competing in a lot of tournaments over July, August, and stuff like that. So he was always the top dog in the game. Starting to see time a little bit. It's at 219 points, Barramondo at 214, Super Linkot at 212. So we could end up with some people who really know how to make this bike behave and do what it needs to catch these slopes and everything.
So best race score was Devil Tifa with a 225. Skunkoff had a couple of 210s and 220s. Brother Main got a 212 during his own finals, and the only one under 200 was Kurt Quick with 195. So we can expect a lot of players to beat that 200 points gap. It's one of the games where it's easier to get above 200 because there was no world record set for the category. It's one of those games that the very active players go actually with ILs, with individual tracks, rather than complete categories. And this is the easy plus medium part of the game, so we are not doing the hardest tracks, but it's fairly hard already to just chain all those together with the least amount of faults possible.
We'll see how the players are able to do. This is the kind of thing where I would be practicing right up until the race started. I would want to get a feel for, get into the groove with the way this game and the way it feels. You're never going to hit the same jump the same way. You're never going to land from the same jump the same way every single time. You can get close, but there's a lot of little adjustments you have to be making all over the place. And so getting a feel for when you need to make an adjustment and how is super important for doing anything in this game, but certainly for racing in this game. So I have LF here getting in some last minute runs and practice, warm up. Certainly I think it's important. Everyone else seems totally confident in their ability to come roaring out of the starting gate here.
So everybody is ready to start the game with the first easy track construction work, and it's going to show how the game is built together. Like Mel was taking the first test. As soon as any part of you touches the ground, you will die, and you have a lot of checkpoints all throughout the entire tracks, and you can use those either to just revive or to your advantage. If you are like coming with too much speed or the wrong actually angle, you can just quick restart and get to the checkpoint again. And it's all about jumping, having the correct speed, and actually reacting, because like you said, it's almost impossible to hit like consistently the same frame, the same trick, the same jump, and you will actually have to adjust yourself quite a lot. It's a very analog game. It's not about like pure direction, it's all about adjustment and balance. So you need to know exactly how your bike behaves and what the track wants you to do.
Might be one of the closest trials races we've had between all four editors on stream. Certainly it's early yet, and the tracks do start easy and get harder and harder as they go. Off with just the medium tracks in this goal, they do start to get quite insane towards the later half of the game. So for the sake of our players' sanity, we will the UD goal is easy, but even easy is not so easy. We West stuck there between the ramp and a pipe, and there's a lot of if you can do too well sometimes, you can overshoot a jump.
Yeah.
And that can hurt you. Like Mel Wesker lands pretty far down the bottom of that ramp, and it's pretty important to land smoothly onto ramps to get some downward speed and then carry that forwards. If you come crashing into the very bottom, chance you're going to actually kill off a good deal of your speed, even though you just had a lot of speed that carried you further down that ramp in the first place.
We are already through 5 levels. This is Easy 5 Fear Justice, and it's amazing how Melwes and Bermondo almost show just the same gameplay with a different camera angle. That's they're very, very close together, and Bermondo gets his head chopped off by that plank here. You want to go slow enough so you clear the gap without touching your head. So Melwes takes a nice lead there, and Ghostdeath and Sandomos are very close behind Bermondo. Bermondo starting Easy 6 at the bumpy road, and it's pretty understandable why that level has that name. It's just a bunch of tiny jumps. You have to get the correct speed and the correct angle to clear those, and if you go too fast or too slow on a ramp, your motorcycle will tilt and you will fall on your face. So you have to get like the correct balance. You have usually to lean forward quite a lot, but as soon as you leave the ground, you want to lean backwards. You have the maximum of your momentum used for actually jumping. So it's all about adjustments and speed, and going fast is usually not the most important thing in a trial complete speedrun like that. The most important is to get to not die and get the correct angle with your wheels, so you don't slow down like for 15 seconds trying to adjust your balance. You have to keep on going, and nobody is actually going for the harder tricks. Everybody is just going for consistency, which is totally smart, especially in trials too.
Yeah, as much as I love the intro video we cut for this game, a lot of that stuff is just there's two things. The amount of skill required to pull it off is immense, just in terms of like things you need to learn. There's entirely different ways of moving the bike that you don't need to do unless you're trying to do that really insane stuff. So there's a knowledge barrier, and then there's a huge execution barrier in being able to consistently do some of that stuff. So the players assessed that, and I think very rightly decided that this is not the kind of thing that is worth putting so much time into in this game. The skill ceiling, I don't know if there is a skill ceiling in this game. The players are still searching for it to this day, and it's just not the kind of thing you'll see in the UD. We got Melwest and Barramondo just one jump apart in where's the ground after the game, because even the camera was having trouble seeing where exactly he was going to land. All too far. This is another one of these you can either end up too short or too far on some of these jumps, and almost decapitated himself on one of those higher routes that you can take, but he's safe. Barramundo actually reset it from a checkpoint there. A lot of players will come screaming into that checkpoint in particular with zero regard for how they're going to land, and just accept that they're going to reset from the checkpoint. They're going to lose their speed and have to accelerate from a standstill, but it does mean that you can go as fast as you can into the checkpoint, so it kind of comes out even.
Nice average, like 10 tracks in, like 30 seconds average per track. This is actually spectacular from all the players. Ghostness and Sandomos are very close behind Melwest and Barramundo. Melwest took a quick restart, or did he just clear the level? I'm never sure, because watch your landings is actually pretty short. Barramundo clears the level as well, and comes with Melwest on the start of Easy Beasy. And this is the end of the easy track. So right now, starting for Melwest with too many tires, is no, this is Easy Beasy, my bad. Next track is the start of the medium tracks, and it's going to be fairly interesting because the difficulty bumps quite higher than we've seen so far. The difficulty in Trials 2 are just cut in easy, medium and hard. Later in the series it's going to be cut in actually 5 or 6 different difficulty modes, because you can make Trials very, very, very difficult. Like, as you said, the skill ceiling doesn't exist.
We can see now the mountain of tires, giving it too many tires. It's nitpick. And if you're once for the first time, you might be forgiven for thinking that the levels don't look all that much harder, but you would be surprised at how a level gets just by making a ramp just a little steeper, making a gap just a little bigger. What it requires you to do with your bike lean is to make sure that this tire is up when it needs to be, or this tire is not back when it needs to be. Melwest is doing a fantastic job navigating that really tricky high wire pipe-ish, I guess they're logs section. We'll see how it goes for Barramundo here, getting it up for the first jump. And so he rocks back and forth a bit there. These are the kind of little bits of time loss. I don't know if he's going to have enough speed to get up there, and he's not. So this is the kind of thing you need to watch out for.
This is exactly what you need to be sure to clear on your first try. Very nice landing here, though, knowing exactly where was the ground after that log, and gets the end smoothly. It is like anything with a 90-degree angle or more is going to be very tricky to pass, because like you do not have exact control on your bike. You just control the engine, the acceleration, and how much you slow it down, but doing anything precisely is tough. Barramundo just making it through the checkpoints and actually catches up with Melwest. Melwest had trouble with clearing those few jumps here, and Barramundo is right on their toes right now.
Yeah, that Melwest was he was going for some stuff, man. He was doing some like double flips over some ladders, and it seemed a little crazy, and then he didn't. So it definitely must have. Oh my God!
Oh wow!
He's gonna hit the X. He doesn't believe it. He didn't. What is he? Okay,
there is a checkpoint right next to the end, and they only got the checkpoint and had to restart. But I'm pretty sure they thought they had the actual end of the track, so that's why they lost about like 2-3 seconds trying to realize what was happening. That's the first time we see that, but we've seen it also on Barramundo's screen. Like, nobody is trying to land properly on that platform. You just want to get the little flames showing that you've cleared the track and move on.
Yeah, that was pretty good. We have seen, you know, you don't need to land smoothly if you're hitting a checkpoint. You can reset and continue on. It's not the fastest thing. But if you find yourself in some ridiculous situation like that, you know, you're on your front tire, you're barely keeping your head off of the floor, or you're flipping crazy out of control, all you want to do is hold on until you get that flame. If you get that flame, then it's all good. But after you get the flame, you want to reset from the checkpoint as soon as you can. So a bit of confusion there on Melwest's part, preventing him from truly handling that crazy situation with Grace. Did a really good job of getting to the checkpoint. It would have been much worse if he hadn't, right? But I don't know, just one of those fun little things. Moving on now to some of the later tracks in the medium. There's only 8 tracks in medium. I think we're on maybe Boulder Dash for Mel West and Barramundo.
Yeah, and Sound Mars is right behind them, still on a long journey, and Ghost Death is at the end of the long journey. So this is very, very close, all those players like together, but we are entering like the very much harder tracks. Those pipes here are hell on earth, like just the slight curve, the slight bevel they have on the end there just is going to trip up a lot of players, and getting those jump right where Barramundo is and where Mel West is coming up, those jumps are probably the hardest in the entire category, because like it doesn't look like much, but actually getting the front tire to just go up enough for you to clear those is way harder than it looks. And pipe dreams coming up, lots of pipes and lots of jumping, and those pipes, once again, they're going to make you jump slightly and give you a weird angle all the time you clear those. And yeah, still very, very close between Barramundo and Mel West. Don't get tripped up by the camera angle. It's different because those two players like different settings, but it doesn't matter much for the race.
There is a surprising variety of camera angles available to the players, including the truly ridiculous first-person camera that will flip, multiple times with your bike. That players were actually a little bit in some of those cases where there's a tunnel that totally obscures where your bike is. Players were sometimes entering the bike with a lot of speed, or they were hitting something in the pipe, but yeah, they would sometimes come out the bottom of the pipe upside down or something and crack their head. They would go into first person to figure what was actually happening there. I guess some players have the jarring switch is not worth whatever, but we haven't seen it in a while. He gets the checkpoint.
I was very impressed with how they cleared that level, because it's one of the hardest ones with those tiny jumps. It was I Want Rails, and we start with Under Construction, aptly named because everything is still being built, clearly, and those two crates at the start you will have to get the correct momentum, and that's exactly where Mel West is passing Barramundo again. Sound Mars is still on Boulder Dash, and Ghost Death is right behind Barramundo and Mel West, an entire track behind, but that's not much. And Barramundo clearly had a fantastic run and is now kind of stuck on Under Construction, and that's going to cost them maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds, depending on how fast they can clear the second half of the level. The drop here is actually pretty hard. I felt like Barramundo had it, and they reset a little bit early, maybe, but you'd rather reset early than too late for time's sake.
I'm with you. I feel like he could have tilted just a little bit to make it work, though bouncing on one tire at the end of a long drop is certainly a scary situation. Mel West moving on to the next level, the final exam, the final level of the goal, and is after this pretty close back and forth between Mel West and Barramundo. It's looking like he is maybe going to get hung up on some tires. It's not the most common place to get up on this level. Barramundo is coming. Ghost Death was also pretty close to them at one point, but he has struggled a little bit with I Want Squirrels, and now Under Construction as well. Just barely get up on top of it. He's looking for traction with the back tire. It is the only thing that spins. The front tire doesn't spin when you hit the accelerator, so it's important in situations like that to try to find purchase with the back tire.
The game would be so much easier if both the front and the back tire were motorized, but I guess that's going to be pretty difficult technically to do with a real bike. So they kept like an interesting arcade gameplay also mixed with what would a real trial would be, but it's actually like completely crazy. It gets very crazy during the game, so that's pretty fun what they build with it. Mel West finishes first. Barramundo is going to be right behind them, but about a 14-minute time is crazy good. That's going to get 220 points to Mel West, and that's exactly what they need if they want to clear the 2000 mark throughout the entire weekend.
Barramundo's been not having the greatest final level or two to the end of his run, but after getting hung up on the double barrel jump, he does successfully clear the last one with the tire. Very easy to have either front or back tire clip one of those tall obstacles, and if you're probably going to start spinning, and then once you start spinning, good luck, because that's basically all that will matter in terms of going to land it fleet or not. And chances are pretty bad to a checkpoint before you're ahead or something just collapses. So very tricky obstacles that both players were able to navigate at the end of the longest, hardest level. Ghost Death is now trying to take this on, bounces over the gap in this this ramp. There's a smooth ramp at the top and the bottom, but the middle is missing, and it's easy to land on that jagged middle part. He navigates the tires at the end. He's going to finish with about a 15:34 or so on the time for Link God, also on the final level.
Yeah, nice end by Ghost Death. That's going to be barely above 200 points for them, passing Super Link God by a little margin. Super Link God having difficulties passing those tiny barrels, and yeah, barely making it there. And that's the final jump above the tire, tilting forward to be sure, actually getting stuck on the tire, but it still makes it at 16 minutes. That's the 200 point mark. So we still have a lot of time to beat the level and the game for LF Vandal and Cylinder Mars. Quick shout out to Faraziel, second time in the tourney, but they actually beat Melwest on Trials 2. The UD is all obviously about beating all 10 games in a row, but some players will actually pick a couple of games and try to compete with the best, and that's not an easy task to do because those players spend a lot of time practicing and grinding, so congrats to them. Cylinder Mars stuck here on the final level. Cylinder Mars is actually doing a fantastic job this season, and keeping up with Ghost Death, Barramundo, Melwest, Super Link God is certainly difficult, and if only they had beaten Metal Slug on time, they would be so much closer.
Yeah, we could have seen a real battle for that place spot. It would have put a lot more pressure on these top 4 guys who maybe feel like without that pressure, they're maybe being a little better than they would have if someone had been breathing down their necks. So things might have been quite different if that had happened. Cylinder Mars having a bit of trouble with some really basic tires here. If you hit something like those tires in just the wrong way, you can get into a really bad situation, like we just saw. Your tire perfectly stuck inside one, and your other unable to do anything to get the first one out of it. But he did thankfully hit a checkpoint another time, getting hit a checkpoint just before his something into the back of his head. We'll see how he handles this really tricky section. You're basically bouncing off of that ramp. You're not really driving off of it, so this whole sequence is really one big jump, and there's no checkpoints. So he is going to go ahead and stop and make sure that he lines up the final part. He lands on the middle, so it's a little scary, but he is able to get into the final sequence and not quite getting the checkpoint there.
Okay, next, last tire. Oh wow, that's why you see that the players tilt completely forward to pass that final tire, because if you don't, you will get tripped just a little bit, and that might send you flip forward. So I'm saying the most barely made it. LF on the final level as well. This final level is where the most time loss will occur, because it's a very long and a very difficult one. Nicely landing on the back tire there, a nice control by LF. And a few jumps actually resetting immediately as they touch the checkpoint to have the correct angle and the correct speed, entering that weird section with a ceiling. Hitting the ceiling, just barely grazing it, will actually kill you, because your head is very delicate, and that's why the players go so slow here. You actually have to be sure you won't hit. Few tires, though every single jump in the game is actually a lot of trouble, just not getting stuck. And oh wow, that hurt.
Yeah, that checkpoint was right there, but it's like your body is where that is the thing you track to see whether or not you go past a checkpoint. In later games, it's your head, so you can kind of manipulate it leaning forwards into checkpoints, but not the case in this game. He's gonna get a weird landing and loses his tire. He looked like he'd been fine, but you do need a tire in order to drive your bike. So Unfortunately, he had to reset from that jump, handling the double barrels very nicely. We'll see how the final tire goes. He's gonna skim it a little bit, and he's not gonna hold on.
Wow! I was sure that was it, and sadly, did not make it. And Vandal in under construction. This is the final level. 20 minutes in. We still have 6 minutes to beat the game. Once again, the cutoffs are usually very, very difficult to beat, so anything under 26 minutes is already worse, considering in a leaderboard for the UD, but like, it is not an easy game, but it's a very fun one. It's a very fun game to watch. He's trying weird stuff here.
Yeah, so this is an example of what it's like to play this game when you're not speedrunning it, right? I mean, that's a little disingenuous to Vandal, but like when you haven't put the time in and practiced each jump a lot, you get something like this where you're like, wait, how is this even? It's Vandal was having some trouble, mostly just you can take jumps differently. It's not just into the jump. There is some back forth that you can do, that a bunny hop maneuver that will change the way that you come off of jumps and things, it's pretty advanced. It's not easy, and it can help like that one that Vandal was getting on. We've seen that from a lot of players. With that particular jump, I don't think he's going to be able to. Somehow he is not dead.
Oh,
he might just a little further, and he might have been able to lean forward and just flip the whole bike over. But so wanted to believe. We all wanted to believe, really.
Yeah, that's why Trials is so great. It's because you never know exactly whether it's okay, it's fine, or it's totally not. Like, and anything will trip you up. Just landing on that slope and leaning forward and gently accelerating to pass those, and then not leaning forward too much so your head gets gently tucked into your shoulders and you pass. And you never know, like, just those concrete blocks will sometimes stop you entirely, and it's a cool experience. I do recommend playing any trial games you can get. Sadly, with Uplay and Steam and recent DRMs, it might get complicated, but I yet have to try on the latest game in the series, but that might be better to try on. And it's just fun to watch. You have ton of selection on YouTube, and for like crazy advanced levels, and Vandal having no problem with those final jumps, barely making it there. Nice.
How did his bike do that? It folded in half at some point, and he used the elastic energy of his springy bike to fling himself into the checkpoint, and then in the middle of his bike on top. This is some truly next level stuff. And then somehow just gets the biggest jump I've ever seen. Clears the tire in its entirety. Vandal just showing us some stuff there at the end. That was super fun to watch. Hats off to Vandal. Also Vandal finishing. There's been a couple times where Vandal right at the end of a game unable to finish before cutoff, so super happy not only to Vandal finish, but also in such a spectacular fashion.
Yeah, it is a tough game to beat, and grats to all players. And clearly Vandal knew what they were doing, and that's why, maybe we've said like it was less speedrunny than what we've seen from Melwes, Bermundo, Stripling, God Goes Death, and the others. But it's actually that those guys beat the game in 14 minutes. So even if you practice and you are confident beating the game in under 25, someone else is doing it almost twice as fast as you, and that's might be sometimes discouraging. And that's why it's so great to have varieties of runners in the UD. Like, every skill level is welcome, and maybe you will not make it as far as some others, but it's still fun to learn some video games and how to make them look fun and fast. So Melwes keeps his first place with over 219, exactly 219 points. They're almost there at 3 points shy of the 200 average.
Yeah, but with DKC and Area of Sorrow left to play, it is going to be very hard to get close to 200 points. in these games. In some cases, 200 points would be a PB for Mel West. So unrealistic to expect the 200 in those games, but it is fairly realistic to expect 220, 230 points in Spectre Ball. It's a hard game to race, but if it goes well, you can get there. And with those points, that could move over a 2,000 point finish. Certainly a big ask, but it's something that he's, it's possible. I wouldn't put past Mel West at this point. Barramondo and Super Link quite close, 2 points apart, separating them for the battle for second place. So, if we had only qualified 2 players today, that would have been quite intense. And Ghost Death bringing up the rear of the top 4 by about 50 points. And this is, he earned just a little bit on Super Link God in Trials, lost a little bit to Barramondo, and is not out of it. He could start challenge these guys across some of these other games. Is pretty good at Area of Sorrow, and is pretty good racing consistent a lot in Spectre Ball. But for now, we're going to be playing some Donkey Kong Country.
The DKC is a fantastic speedrun, very tricky, very technical. The category is all stages. The world record is crazy fast at 31 minutes and just a couple of seconds, just shy of sub 31 if I recall correctly. And the 200 mark is at 33, is that correct? Or 35? It's 35 probably.
35.
It's a crazy big ask. Like for anyone that hasn't played or speedrun DKC before, it's a crazy speedrun. Lots of trick, lots of tech, lots of glitches, lots to learn. The community built up a very nice wiki with all the information you need to start speedrunning the game, but it will not help you actually input the frame-perfect jumps and rolls you need on some glitches. So every single runner in the UD managed to get their strats like nicely put together with some high jumps, infinite jumping you do not necessarily need just to make their life easier and the game to go faster overall. So it's going to be a great game. And if you like close races, okay, maybe today is assured for the top 4 currently to pass for next week. But next week we are only keeping 4 players. And like it's the grand finals, we are going to have the best 10 runners in the UD, and it's going to be pretty intense between Skunkov, Brother Main, Quick, Fireman, Cute Shadow, and Devil Tifa competing against those 4 we can see right now on screen: Mel West, Barramondo, Ghost Death, and Super Link God. It's going to be very, very tricky to get to stay and to keep a top 4 place, because everybody is fairly evenly matched. At that point, if we compare with the previous result during the finals, Cute Shadow, Super Link God, and Barramondo would be at 10 points between each other. Devil Tifa and Mel West would be quite some points ahead, but we never know how much Devil Tifa is stay practiced. We don't know as well if Mel West is going to be able to reiterate what they're doing this weekend, so we'll have to see. And the race is starting right now. DKC all stages, for a big classic speedrun wise.
Yeah, the community for this game is huge. The resources are also wonderful. When you are part of a competition like UD and you need to be learning things, a whole lot of things very quickly, it helps to have nice resources to learn those games. And DKC has, it doesn't have the over-bloated hour tutorial, like minutes kind of thing. It's got it's detailed when you need it, and it's brief when you don't need it. And it was a wonderful opportunity for players to learn. So the DKC website and community are wonderful, and it's made people compete in this game and push the time down to some truly absurd levels. So there's a lot for players to dig into if they want. And the players, I'm not sure, Mel West has some really great times in DKC, and Ghost Death is starting to approach them, and I wonder at some point, do you start to think about cutting out the later super jumps that they're a safety strat, a consistent strat that lose you quite a bit of time because they're not particularly fast to pull off. I'm not sure if the players are going to see that, but for now, just watch and see what happens. First 2 levels is smooth. There's a couple of rolls and extendo rolls that the players opt to do. Basically, Diddy's faster while he's rolling. He's also just much faster than in most aspects. But by releasing and repressing the Y button during a roll and then hitting an enemy, you can then do the roll, and you can use that to chain together a roll that otherwise wouldn't chain together, which means that you preserve that huge boost when you roll through multiple enemies. And it is quite technical, quite difficult. Some players have opted not to cut them out entirely, but some players are leveraging them, like Mel West, and they're pretty far ahead of, for this early on anyway, ahead of Saline Demars and a little bit ahead of Barramondo. But Ghost Death has been keeping pace with them. He's basically right behind him heading into the first.
Yeah, they're like a few like spins of a tail and arms away, getting on guard almost together. On guard is fantastic for water levels. They will, obviously for not water level, having a swordfish as a companion would not help much, but their buck ability will help you go through enemies. They will kill everything like automatically. It's an extra safety because if you get hit, and guard will just leave, and you can get it again if you manage to catch them back up. And it's just a very good companion to have. Beating the level almost on the same frame. Ghost Death and Mel West are very close together. They both have DD in front and DKC to support them, and right away we can see a lot of those hidden barrels. The devs were nice enough to put a lot of secrets in DKC. It might appear like it's a fairly straightforward game, but if you start exploring, you will find a lot of secrets, and that makes it for a very nice and short speedrun compared to what the actual length of the game. Very nice jumps both from Ghost Death and Mel West to get that barrel. It's not that easy. We'll see how Barramondo manages to get on top there.
Had a bit of trouble there getting that extendo roll, and he just goes right into it. Almost seemed intentional, but it's not like the enemy was dead. You could still make it happen.
Why.
I think
they wanted the correct setup, like that, to be sure. And got the wrong barrel and died again. That's the problem with DKC. You want to be sure you are nailing the tricks, and if you are not sure, you might want to reset and start from the checkpoint. You do not want to touch that barrel. You do not want to kill the Kremlin, and Barramondo dies again, sadly, losing a lot of time on those few jumps.
Yeah, we were just saying, like, and he killed that guy and got in that barrel, and we were about to start talking about why it was so important, and that he does that the players do that, and Barramondo showing us exactly why. You do need to bounce off of him to get in that barrel, and it's not that easy. So that one got Barramondo. I'm surprised it got him as much as it did, as many times and as many different ways as it did. So a little bit of a blow to his confidence, perhaps, but we'll see how he recovers. He's moving backwards on the track here. I'm not sure what that is about, but Steph and Mel West. Oh, he's going to get lives. He lost a lot of lives. I think he's concerned about game over.
Maybe they want to be sure to gain lives right now compared to what if they would need them later in the game. So just having those 5 extra lives right now would make them sure they can beat the game. And if you want to backtrack to 1-1 from, like, say, in the middle of World 4, it would take way more time, so might as well do it now, I think. Ghost Death and Mel West very close together still in the second level of World 2. World 2 is very short, especially because of the minecart level that starts off the world that can be skipped entirely. And Barramondo in the against the boss, very naughty, is dead, and Sandermar showing off the skip, the hidden secret in the minecart level. Do remember to jump above that final Kremlin, or you will regret all your decisions in life. And Mel West and Ghost Death going very fast through those levels. Lots of skips, lots of tricks, and you will actually go through World 2 fairly quickly.
Yeah, we just saw Stop and Go I think it is. The second one gets skipped entirely by just going backwards, but we're into now another level. It is fully going to get skipped, but you're going to have to work for it. You're going to switch over to Donkey Kong. He's going to go up off the top of the screen because of that terrain that he was next to, and that preserves a weird sort of upwards jump state by getting hit and holding the button. DK shoots off into space, hitting it like a warp barrel, but it's like left in by developers. At least that's the theory. There's no other way to get to it other than ridiculous shenanigans like the players just did. But it skips that level, so the players will do those shenanigans, and they will be also leveraging that super jump that we just saw in a couple kind of a lot more levels. In some cases, they're trying to skip over some slow sections. In some cases, they're trying to skip over some hard sections. But
Melwest and Ghostdeath is keeping pace with Melwest, and Ghostdeath's PB is actually 2 minutes behind Melwest. So that says something about like Ghostdeath's confidence and how practiced they are. On the other end, Burmondo going back to the to get extra lives at the in the middle of World 1 showed that they are not very confident to be able to beat the game without dying too much more, and that's a bad sign, because even if World 1 and 2 are pretty forgiving, World 4, 5 and 6 are certainly not. You will die a lot if you're not exactly sure what you're doing in DKC. That's probably the biggest difficulty, the biggest hurdle to pass when you're learning the game, is that it's not an easy game overall. The camera is very close to the players. You do not have much information about what's going on. You have a lot of tricks to learn if you want to go fast, and some levels are super long. So I'm a bit worried.
West setting up for a super jump. He does execute on it correctly. If you don't hit the floor before that Kremlin, you'll actually grab the rope that you're trying to jump past. We'll see how it goes for Ghostdeath. He is hit.
Nice.
The Kremlin jump, and he is in the air. They're going to be using a cue. You're basically jumping upwards for half of this jump and then falling downwards for half of it. I think Melwest is probably already on his way down. The players are looking for a particular visual cue, and you want to get that right. Actually, if you fall too early, those enemies and get hit, and if you fall too late, you can actually get up waiting at the end of the level to come back down. Melwest actually landing right at the top of that mountain, so pretty precise there. It says he knows he wants to roll off of those enemies and get a little bit of a speed boost towards the end of the level. Ghostdeath is going to be content to fly over them as well, and comes down without much waiting at all. So nicely executed by both players.
Superling actually doing great in the same level as Melwest and Ghostdeath. It's only Burmondo that's a little bit behind. Melwest showing off Espresso, or my favorite bird in any game, I think. It's pretty great to clear those gaps. You can flap her wings extensively to clear big jumps. It's just going super fast, which also means like you have to remember exactly the layout of the level. It's a double-edged sword, and sometimes it will kill you totally, like not necessarily in that level, but you'll see later in World 5. You'll have some scary moments maybe.
For some reason, you've got me totally sidetracked. Birds.
Oh.
Who might top the list. And I gotta say, Edley from the Wind Waker is maybe up there. Maybe it's a little rude to call her a bird instead of a bird person, a Ruto. But she's pretty cool in my book. Melwest getting into the jet barrel thing because you only want one sprite, and that's because that will let you execute on this glitch that Melwest just did. When you've only got one sprite, the basically Kong's stop for a frame when they turn a corner, and it will check inputs to see if you want to enter a level during that frame. So by mashing all the buttons like Death just did, you get that frame perfect input. And you do need both Kongs to not be moving if you have two, so that's why they get in the barrel, so that they kind of only have one sprite. Send them into Orangutan Gang, so they warp into most of the way through the end of the level, and it ends up being a little bit faster to do that whole song and dance than to actually play the level. But they finish the level is, and so that satisfies the all levels condition for this category.
So we have an interesting 5 players layout going on here. So Melwest and Super Lingard and Ghostdeath are all in the same level. In the tiny middle of the screen you can see Super Lingard. We will use that just as a reference, like the color of the level will inform us of where they are. Burmondo is a little bit behind, like a couple of levels, still doing the infinite jumps. Melwest against the boss, right after the water level where Ghostdeath is currently, and Super Lingard catching up with them. So this is very tight. I do not remember what's the PB in DKC from Super Lingard. It's actually 37:53, so that's 1 minute behind Melwest, and once again, them keeping pace with Melwest is a very good sign.
Yeah, there was earlier when you were talking about people's different motivations. You were talking about Faraziel beating Melwest in the UD, and you were like, you know, some people come to compete in all 10 games, and then I thought you were going to say, and some people come to beat Melwest, and it seems like that's something that Super Lingard is hoping to aim for here a little bit. We're into some of the harder snow levels. Melwest is going to be the first one to reach them. They are slippery, and they also just have like a lot of slopes and verticality to them that make it quite difficult. So we'll see if we're going to see some metal barrel slope jumps. We did, but he loses it there, so he's not going to be able to get the cool triple jump sequence off of these birds. Maybe one of our other players, like Ghostdeath, who's now entering the same level, will be able to show us, but for now, Melwest holds on to this lead.
Couple of very difficult levels coming up for Melwest and Ghostdeath, as well as Super Lingard. Snowy levels in DKC aren't slippery as you'd expect them, but they're just like everything put apart, like further and further. You have big gaps to clear and lots of barrel to use, and that's the point where the game will always almost kill you in one hit. You will fall to your death, you will just get pushed back and knocked back to the pit, and that's where it gets very tricky to actually still go fast while actually clearing the levels. So Melwest did a good job doing that. So is Ghostdeath right now, showing that they know very well. Missing the barrel, the secret barrel here, but you actually can get back to it pretty easily using the actual barrel you're supposed to use to clear the level. While the Melwest and Super Lingard in the caves here, climbing using the a single rope. That's not actually easy to do. Melwest is showing a lot of cool strats. And finally, here is Espresso again.
Espresso is very important for this level, to say the least. You can see these huge gaps and tons of enemies everywhere. This is an incredibly hard level to play without Espresso. Not to say that it's very easy with Espresso. It's certainly much faster with Espresso, but level with Espresso, especially one like this that has as many enemies and as many jumps, is pretty hard. You don't get to see what you're jumping to most of the time. It's very memorization based, and if you get off script, it can surprise you sometimes. Espresso also has this. I don't know if it's the long legs, or if it's sort of an unintended mechanic, but she can sort of run over some of the claptrap enemies, and that is a big help in this level and in a couple other cases. So for now, past that really scary Ghostdeath having a bit of a left-right there. We're about to crash into another bird, able to respond in time. That was pretty cool. Most players would probably have crashed right into that enemy. So hats off to Melwest is going to be the first one into Croctopus Chase, and I suspect that he will be joined by many others. It is an incredibly long stage. God is also going to be just starting this stage now, and it's really long, and there's no on guard because he would Croctopus Chase part thing. So it's just, you know, hyper optimizations, rounding course, and not bumping into things.
So starting on the second part of the game here, clearly Ghostdeath is playing a little bit more careful than what Melwest and Super Lingard are doing currently. They're with Espresso especially, they were just like waiting and making sure they would clear the gap before jumping, and that's going to cost them a lot in the long run. But once again, rather go slow and consistently it's always better than trying to save 5 seconds and actually die. So especially in Donkey Kong, so they will fall a little bit behind. But Croctop's chase is so long that it's not going to show right now. But Melwest is probably going to beat the level 30 to 40 seconds before Super Link God, and Gusdes is going to be about a minute behind Melwest, I'd say. So Croctopus chase is very, very long, but at least you can relax a little bit, and you know, it's the half of the game. So congrats to all the runners to still be alive and well in 60 minutes in DKC.
Also, just being alive and well after this much speed running. They were playing for 3+ hours yesterday, and they're at for more today, and not to mention all the other competitions and all the time they've put in over the months to learn these games. It is a very long process. Endurance starts to become a factor in these things. It might be one of the reasons why we haven't seen any new people uploaded to the leaderboards from Devil has been perhaps enjoying a bit of a break. Hopefully not much of a break. Hopefully comes back sharp as we look forward to grand finals. But there's definitely something to be said for your ability to maintain focus after such a long period of time. We'll see how the players do as they approach the end of we'll pass the middle point now of DKC and into the last few games of our October last chance competition. Melwest is into one of a few dark levels that comes up, and sometimes it is dark by choice because the player who lights the way last blinds you in the face anytime you turn around, and sometimes you would really rather stay in black basement, but it's going to have to deal with it. No, it's in that stage.
It's not too bad in Torchlight Trouble because you have a lot of hints and you have like the light is there, it's just very, very dim, but you can see what's happening. Not sure. Oh, Melwest did actually go and save. This is the first time we're seeing Candy in a lot of time. Like, players have been completely ignoring the save mechanic in DKC speedrunning lately, like in DUD. And overall, I'm pretty sure in actual DKC speedruns. But like, Melwest just want to be sure, even if they die again and again, that they will not have to restart the entire game. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, in one hand, I think it's pretty smart. On the other one, it's actually just costing time, and I do not expect them to die at all in DKC.
The tire there.
What happened? They despawned the tire and then went back again and respawned it? It was pretty weird.
Yeah, I was like, when despawned it, I was like, oh shoot, it's some new thing I've seen before where he's purposely trying to despawn it. 'Cause you're bouncing on it, it's pretty awkward to bounce off of it, and in most cases you don't need it to anything else. So I thought it was like a really creative consistency strat, but then he went back and respawned again, so I don't know what the deal was there. But maybe they were is he just having fun? Like, what is going on? This is coming after the save as well, so like something. Melwest is up to something.
Yeah, I do hope they're having fun, but I'm pretty sure they were just jumping to wait, like to count cycles, and accidentally despawn the tire. But I might be wrong. Maybe they were just showing that you can despawn stuff. That's always pretty nice. Beating very naughty. The second take here. Once again, the bosses are not what's going to kill you the most, and starting Old Drum Alley here, and probably some of the hardest levels are in this world. You will have lots of very interesting infinite jumps happening just to clear a lot of those levels, but on the levels you will not be able to infinite jump on, you can die a lot actually if anything bad happens.
There are also the levels where, to go faster than executing kind of more advanced strategies and getting a lot of rolls, extendo, like that. So you might be able to play through the level with some amount of consistency, but chances are it's not going to be much faster than doing the super jump unless you pull out. So there are a number of cases like this where the super jump is much, much easier and only a little bit slower, so it's enough to have most players go for it. We're seeing it for now from Ghost Death God coming down is just seconds behind Mal West heading into Trick Track Trek. And this is another. I mean, they're all going to be fairly tricky levels from now on, but this one is the one after.
Yeah, Trick Track Trek is the one everybody wants to beat in sub 10 seconds.
But this whole world is going to get pretty difficult. The levels you actually have to be anyway.
So is Mal West going to go for the infinite jumps here? I'm not sure. Apparently they didn't have DK, so they are going to go for the regular strands. So is Super Lingard, apparently in the middle of the screen. We'll see what Ghostdeath does, but I'm pretty sure they're going to go for the infinite jump right after Trick Track Trek. Once again, almost sub 10 seconds level if you execute on it perfectly. And Mal West is just not stopping for anything, going for a lot of rolls, trying to go for a lot of extended rolls, I feel. Like this one right now. Wow,
Whoa.
barely making that, using the platform that was just exactly where they needed to be. And yeah, this is actually going great for them. Ghostdeath is going to lose DK here, and yeah, intentionally in order to infinite jump there. So they will be slower than Mal West and Super Lingard because both of them cleared the level without the infinite jump and without stopping.
That was a very good elevator antics for both players. They're now both into Poison Pond. When Mel hit that extendo, I was like, oh, I think we're going to see away, but Super Lingard's still right there with him. Poison Pond is... And all the water levels are very speedrun in terms of being absolutely optimal. But Poison Pond can be pretty hard just to hold on to on guard. Actually, there's a lot of cases where you need to be on point with those bucking motions. And if you get out of sync with some of the enemies, some of the mincers, you're very likely to take a hit and he's going to go away. We've seen players actually lose on guard in such a way as he gets too far and disappears. So, that was really bad when that happened, and hopefully that doesn't happen to our players today. But Mal West and Super both looking on point, just charging right past the mincer. Super Lingard is going to wait out. You have to go really straight through it, so pretty difficult. Super Lingard going to play well safe, and that means Mal West is going to just a tiny bit of a gap between them.
Just a quick look at Cyan de Mars. They're about 6 minutes behind what Mal West has shown, but it's actually not that bad because that's the worst game for Cyan de Mars. PB just shy of the 50 minutes mark, and Mal West is actually about 13 minutes faster PB-wise, so Cyan de Mars just trying their best, going as fast as they can, obviously, and I do hope they're able to cut the 50. That would be nice, as obviously Mal West and Super Lingard still very close together, almost tied to the frame here, while Ghostdeath is trying his best to catch up. Once again, PB, if you compare the performances PB-wise, both Ghostdeath and Super Lingard are really closing into Mal West. Mal West dropping a few roll jumps here, but made it past the enemies and back to safety. You have to land on the middle minecart here so you can clear the level, so that's exactly what they did.
Switching to Donkey Kong, preparing to this hit for the jump roll sequence. So super jumping over Oil Drum Act, and Sailing to Mars. Still on Croctopus Chase. It is such a long level, but we got Super Lingard all rolling through the air as well, and that means that Ghostdeath pulled ahead of him. I'm not sure. I missed what happened, but that is the case. So a bit of a lead change there as Mal West is into maybe the hardest stage of the run. It's up there, sure.
Yeah.
It's Blackout
as soon
Basement.
as you said that.
There it is.
That's wow! It should have been like a reverse commentary course. You say it's very hard, and they show how easy it's actually. But Blackout Basement is reckless. You cannot see where you're going, and just a single mistake will kill you instantly. Like you cannot see anything at all. Just the barrels. Not even the bananas. Can you? I do not remember, but it's. Wow, finally getting the middle checkpoint. You certainly cannot see the, yes, you can see the bananas. You cannot see the ropes though, and those are the most tricky thing. Mal West ignoring them completely with some very nice roll jumps here, and they took one death, but once again, I'm not sure why they actually saved, because they're not struggling with anything currently.
I guess I don't know. I feel like they were feeling like maybe they were going to start to go all out or something. They were going for, I assume, a pretty advanced strategy. Rope something. With the one after the save, basically. And Rope Bridge Rumble is the name of that level. And yeah, I don't know if he was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go in for crazy stuff. And then, I mean, he was going for some jump rolls and stuff that you don't typically see in Blackout Basement. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an indication of his mindset here, or if he'll switch back to something a little more safe and consistent. Certainly, there's not much variety in strats. The drum here, just kind of hitting the enemies as they come out of the drum. Ghost Death and Link got both into Blackout Basement, and they're taking a variety of little pauses here and there whenever it's necessary. It's very hard to do the level exactly the same each time, so that you know where all the moving elements are going to be in their cycles. So there's a lot of just kind of waiting to see where things are at and reading and reacting. It looks like Ghost Death is through. Super Link God also through. Both players are going to be very happy to be done with that stage.
That boss is the most underwhelming boss in the entire video game history, I'd say. Like, you just have to wait for it to die, so not much to be said. Super Link God and Ghost Death will be done fairly soon. While Melwest is on World 6, has some very cool levels and some very cool strands. We might not see the infinite wall jump you can do on those levels, but I do still hope. We've seen it once in the entire UD6. It was when we first announced the game in the what was it, on the Saturday's tournament? I think we've done 2 races of DKC in a row, and players actually went for it because the races were just there for fun and you had nothing to lose. But right now the stakes are quite higher, and everybody just wants to beat the game and not die, and saving a few seconds might not be worth it.
Yeah, we've seen some half-hearted attempts at going for it, but I don't think we've seen anyone really attempt it with gusto like we saw back near the start of the season. Melwest is moving, I mean, at pace that the level requires for the level, but he is in his movements. It seems to be pretty calm and collected here. There's not a lot of wiggling with impatience or anything like we saw when he was waiting for that tire. So I like what I'm seeing from him. Ghost Death is I think he's got it set up maybe, but he's not going to try here. Looks like Super Link God also not going to bother, going to kill it early in advance, taking out that bird.
Nobody going for fancy skips, fancy glitches, but once again doing frame perfect inputs that would kill you if you fail. Usually you want to avoid doing that if you can, and that's what I would like the most about the KC speedrun, is that you have a variety of strats and you can do a lot of different things to make your life easier or harder, but usually it's an okay game to beat. It's not one of those harder game, and using the infinite jumps like Melwest is doing right now, you will be able to clear some of the hardest levels. And it's been a while since we've seen a game over actually stopping a run. So hard game, long game, but once the runners actually learned, it was okay for most of them.
Ghost Death hitting the barrel. It seems like it's a really close call, but that last light will hang on for quite a while. It's just there to more of an intimidation tactic, really. But Ghost Death and Super Link got very far along. Finding that last barrel there is Ghost Death, and making sure to you can be pretty quick bouncing off those naughties at the end of the stage. But after such a long stage, players tend to be quite hesitant on that last little section there. Ghost Death loses Diddy, setting up the super jump in Manic Minzer. Super Link God is probably going to do the same.
Yeah, you want to bounce off the Ramby
Yeah, there it
crate.
is.
We've seen Ramby used once. It was last week or recently. I don't remember why, but we've seen some of the Ramby action. But sadly, it's not worth using at all in the UD setting. So, Espresso and Guard, welcome to the run. Ramby, Squawks, you're not that welcome to the jungle, but it's okay, we still like you. Misty Mines for Malwest, once again one of those levels we are going to enjoy the entire level design, but not actually experience it, as we do not need to go through the level normally. It would be faster to go through the level with extended worlds and just doing perfect jumps everywhere, but you have so many enemies popping everywhere that it's so much safer and actually faster than doing Misty Mines like the wrong way or the slow way. So safe and fast, everybody's taking the bet. Superling God and Ghostess biting the bullet here and going through with the jump.
So as Misty Mines just sort of blows by for Super Link God and Ghost Death Melwest into the last dark level, Loopy Lights. One of the last levels of run, really. There's still one more platforming level left to do, but one has, it's dark, but it's not that dark. And like you said, there are a lot of little things you can see here and there if it's not totally lit up. But these chomps are just the worst. They're the worst thing in the game, and the only thing you can do is jump over them. And they jump when you jump. They're like Melwest. Also a problem. Lost Diddy is stuck with Donkey for the later half of this stage. We'll see how he's able to adapt to this situation. Donkey controls. I mean, he's kind of similar to Diddy, but he's just a little bit worse in speeds and acceleration than he's just clunkier.
Yeah, is very bad. Thank God they fixed that in the later games in the series, DKC Returns and Tropical Freeze, where you actually can play with both Diddy and Donkey and not like feel like something hates you, because to be honest, when you're playing with the DK on the speedrun, it usually means, oh wow, the final what's the name of those enemies? Claptraps. Yeah, I'm always getting things confused because of claptraps in Borderlands. Always hesitant to use that name. But Melwest, picking finally back Diddy in the last level, actually, the last platforming level in the game, a level that killed a lot of players because of those moving platforms. You cannot really see where you're going if you are too impatient, but impatience also goes together with going fast, and you are going to go through a lot of enemies, and yeah, everything is going to try to kill you when you're jumping, so you have to go slowly and patiently or know exactly what you're doing. But clearly Melwest is showing that they know exactly what they need to do to beat those levels. So, oh no, not getting the correct bounce on those. This is a very risky jump, and actually Ghostess and Superlingod are very close behind Melwest now. Melwest took the checkpoint, and I'm fairly sure so did no, not yet for both Ghostess and Superlingod, but close.
Yeah, Melwest was looking so confident in the stage. He was rolling around, doing all kinds of roll jumps, and was going for some stuff. And I was loving what I was seeing, and then it all just fell apart with one bounce off of whatever the armadillos are called. I don't think I ever knew what they were called other than armadillos. But he's towards the end of the stage. Some of the crushes require barrels to be knocked away, and has an opportunity to go for a couple platform skips towards the end of the level. We'll see what he's going to go for. He is going to ride this one over to the left for the barrel, but he's just going to throw it away. Not what he's interested in. Just wanted the extra ride. But
that one final jump killed so many players. We've seen Ghostess and Superlingod on the same jump that killed Melwest actually go under the platform and do something way safer. Ghostdeath and Superlingard are still super close together, even after like it's been 10 minutes since they just kept the same exact pace together. It's been great to watch. Ghostdeath having some good jumps and barely making that, wow! And going with DK for the final few jumps in the game, in the level, and in the game actually. Melwest got a very nice fight against Nikki, the refight, the last time we see the boss, and Superlingard with DD actually was faster in the end than Ghostdeath, and Melwest starting Gangplank Galleon, the final level in the game, and King Carol in all his might, giving us a nice and slow fight that you really don't want to die here.
Probably the worst death you can in the game, and up there for one of the worst deaths you can take in the whole decathlon, and we've seen it before, so as easy and as straightforward as this fight should be, something about that easiness lends a weird sense of tension that you just really don't want to screw up now, and it lends things with a weird set of stakes that is elevated. I don't know, but some players just, it gets to them, and we have seen players die. We have seen players one hit and then have to hold on with Donkey for the rest of the fight. Hopefully Melwest doesn't end up in that situation either. Ghostdeath and Superlingard now joining him in Gangplank Galleon, sailing to Mars in the very difficult Blackout basement. And Barramundo is, I'm pretty sure that's Loopy Lights we're seeing. No, yes. Yeah, he is making his way through that dark level with the super jump, I guess.
What was happening on Melwest? Oh, I was confused. Usually the runners do dodge those cannonballs, but Melwest found the safe spot and was just waiting for the 3 waves to go by. So I got confused, like, is this normal? But yeah, they got the correct fake credits and the correct final hit on King Carol, and they're just going to have the final fight to go through the final 3 hits, and that should be okay for them. But Superlingard and Ghostdeath are about a little bit less than a minute behind Melwest, and that's actually very good for Superlingard. And Ghostdeath is doing fantastic today. His PB is about to be beaten because it's a 40.06, and I think they will get a 39, about 39 on spot on. So a very, very good run from Ghostdeath. That's exactly what they needed to catch up with Barramundo and Superlingard, but it's not going to be quite enough as Superlingard is actually faster.
Melwest now done. 38:30 or so is going to be the time as we get to a nice little 4x3 stretch, or no, 16x9 stretch rather. You want to see Cranky Kong in all his glory. Blow him up as big as you can get him, I say. Ghostdeath phase now with Superlingard. They have been so close for so long in this DKC run. It is pretty cool to watch. We're going to go ahead and get Superlingard slotted in to that top left section just as he finishes the run. There's the giant banana. He is going to finish just a little ahead.
Ghostdeath with a minute PB. Staying close to Superlingard, but getting past on the very last platforming level, and actually ending up probably in the 3rd slot here for the DKC race, but still a fantastic run. Melwest finished with 38.26 time, and Ghostdeath with a 39.36. Do remember that his PB is 3 minutes behind Melwest, so that's exactly what they needed to stay confident and close to the bunch, while Barramundo is going to fall a little bit behind as they just finished Loopy Lights here and start Platform Pearls right now, so that's still going to be about 3 minutes to beat the game. So they're going to be about 4 minutes behind Superlingard and Ghostdeath, and 4 minutes is about 24 points, so that's going to hurt, but not much as they're very, very close with the pack anyway.
Yeah, that's going to put about a 20-point gap between Superlingard and Barramundo, and then another 20-point gap between Barramundo and Ghostdeath. So it's going to put things in a state where it's pretty likely that someone could overtake the other and we could see a late lead change from someone to the last 2 games. For now, Barramundo has to struggle with DK through the end of platform barrels here. He gets the checkpoint barrel, and he's also going to get this DK barrel, so he's going to be pretty happy about both. Sailing to Mars just starting out on Tanked Up Trouble, very long level that is kind of tense. There's not too much going on at any given moment, but the fact it is so long and there is no floor combined definitely create a certain amount of anxiety for the players. So Barramundo is also dealing with a no floor level, is pretty far along onto the crushes sections at the end now.
Yeah, like, do note, like, chat is pointing out that Barramundo is still pretty good. Like, he's a very, very talented runner. They've been doing great, and especially also on DKC. And yeah, it's amazing how far behind they appear to be compared to Super Lingot, Ghostess, and Melwes. So, as the other runners are getting prepared for Spectra Ball, maybe having the time to do a quick warm-up session, as we are going to take a break after DKC anyway. And Barramundo just has to go through the Neki's Revenge, the lair with the only tiny bit of RNG in the game, being the height at which Neki appears. 3 times the highest setting here, and one on the left there, and the boss is almost dead. 2 more hits will do the tricks. You actually have to wait for Neki to stop throwing bullets at you, and here it's done. Gangplank Galleon left, and it's always like, I don't know how I feel about speedruns that give you one final very long auto-scroller pretty much at the end, because you know you cannot save time anyway and you might die and lose a lot of time, so it's always hard to deal with, and you'd rather have just like action-packed final level and be done with it. But still, Barramundo has to fight King K. Rool and be done with DKC, maybe forever. No, they actually will probably have to play through the game next weekend as well, so one final week for UD6 if they don't qualify to the Ultimate Finals. So DKC, no!
Oh,
too early! They're going for the early hit, and got killed there, and actually have to fight the boss all over again.
I think losing Diddy made him feel like, you know, while the game pauses when you lose a Kong, so in his mind, when K. Rool was going to throw the crown, the internal clock was still running, but the game's clock wasn't, so he was pretty sure he was going to be able to jump, and needed to wait a little bit longer there to find that hit, so he gets set back, and that's going to hurt him just a little more. He's going to end up much closer to Ghost Death now on the leaderboard. We could see a battle between 3rd and 4th rather than 2nd and 3rd, the way it was going to be. Perhaps Sailing to Mars finished Tanked Up Trouble. Was very hesitant towards the end of the level, but is going to be finished and moving on, super jumping through Manic Mincers. We'll have a couple more stages to go, but for now it's Barramundo on Gangplank Galleon. Still has both Kongs, is looking much better than they were before, certainly. Though things, I don't know, he was looking good until it all went wrong very quickly. So I guess we'll just have to wait and cross our fingers.
Barramundo, Sailing to Mars are 2 final players of the bunch through DKC. 45 minutes in. Sailing to Mars has Misty Mind and only one other level to beat, so they might be sub 50 pace, but not by much. I'd like to see them beat the game on time. I'd love to. They really need the infinite jump here, but they're not going for it apparently. I'm not sure. Yes, they do. Okay, my bad.
Barramundo's through with the credits. He gets stepped on by K. Rool. He is going to be able to find the hit, and he gets stepped on again, the long jumps. Barramundo just lost a ton of time in Gangplank Galleon.
That's come on, Bermundo, they can do it, they know they can do it, they're just getting frustrated at that point. I'm pretty sure they want to be done with the game. You don't want to die twice on Gangplank Galleon. Sandemars needs someone to fail on a game to be able to come back to top 4, but sadly they also need themselves to beat DKC on time, and them dying again on the Misty Mines is going to dampers their ability to do so just a little bit. Not going for the infinite jump on Misty Mines. I don't know if that's by choice or just they did not get it and they did not want to go through with the setup again, but it's costing them quite a lot, so I'm not sure. You always never know what's going on in the player's mind, but sometimes you can have hints, and I'm pretty sure Bermundo is super frustrated. I'm not sure either if they're losing DD on purpose, so the game is lagging a little bit less, or if it's an accident each time. But seeing them losing DD 3 times in a row makes me think that it's actually by design.
The other explanation would be that it's just in his head at this point, to such a degree that he keeps making the same mistake. I'm not sure. I certainly hope for that first explanation, but he gets stepped on again, falling apart here a little bit. Barramondo, that timer is ticking. He can still finish and pick up 100 points, but is running out of tries here. He really needs to get this, or he is not going to finish. He is going to lose out on 100 points. He has pretty much no chance of catching up on either of the other players. I don't think Sailing to Mars is going to finish either, with another death in Misty Mines. So it's looking like Barramondo, even if he doesn't finish, he doesn't really have to worry about someone challenging that 4th place position. But more than anything, this is just not how you want your speedrun to go.
Yeah, like they had an okay speedrun for the entire run of the game, and yeah, they're just going to get it right now. Dying again on King Carol is too much for them. I totally understand the decision. Clearly it's okay. They will still be in top 4, but that doesn't bode well very much for being able to come back to top 3 place, and also for next week. Like, you want to be able to beat all those games. The worst score that has been shown on DKC by any other player is Quick in 125 points, which is still a very good time, and sadly Sandemars is going to probably stop here as well. Nope, they're still going on Misty Mines. They still have a minute and a half. Might as well go as far as they can. So Barramondo, yeah, probably a little bummed out, but only 2 games remaining, Spectral and Area of Sorrow. Barramondo is a good friend of mine. He's a fantastic guy. I've met him multiple times, and I know it's been a hard duty for them. There are a lot of games they don't like. They've been like putting a lot of effort, at least just being able to run them once and never touch them again. That's why they did not join so many tournaments, and they just don't want to go with the hassle of playing Spectral or A Story About My Uncle again. But they're still doing it just for the last tournament here, so big congrats to them. I hope they do still keep up the pace and come back with Spectral right after a short break. And Sandemars, yeah, still had Loopy Lights as well. I forgot about Loopy Lights. But yeah, he's going to bite the bullet here, and probably not going to be able to beat that level as well. So it was an interesting set of races and runs. Very good races by Ghostdeath and Superling God, trying to stay close behind Melwest. Melwest shown a fantastic run throughout the entire game, and yeah, time's up. So congrats to all the runners, and what a finish!
Yeah, that was pretty surprising from Barramondo. Stanley DeMars, his PB is a 58.9 actually, so would have needed a pretty substantial PB in order to finish on time. But Barramondo's PB in Donkey Kong Country is pretty good. He's got a 42.06 and basically was going to finish it right around 15 minutes there. So really not the Donkey Kong run that they were expecting. But, you know, it's easy to forget about the pretty good 3 Donkey Kong Country runs we watched from Mel West, Super Link God, and Ghost Death, particularly how close it was between Super Link God and Ghost Death, finishing 16 seconds apart. They're now 50 points apart on the leaderboard. And we can see our top 4 have spread apart here by quite a bit of points between their 4th, 50 between 2nd and 3rd, like I said, and Mel West continues to dominate from the top by 170 points. So it's looking like we're not going to see too much movement in terms of leaderboard placement across these last 2 games. Maybe something, you know, what happened to Barramondo can happen to anyone.
Spectral has been renowned
to
decide like a lot of stuff. So we'll see. Campo Quick last week, 2 weeks ago, had the most exciting and fantastic Spectral run we've ever seen. I do wonder if Ghost Death is going to do the same, because they've been practicing the game a lot lately. I do not know what Mel West is going to do. If there is a single game where we could see Mel West or Super Link God actually not finish, it would be Spectral, because sadly I do not wish that on anyone. I do not. I'm countering any commentary curse possible, but this is an awful game to speedrun, to be honest, like in a race at least. Like, you might like it grind-wise, but in a race you might get stuck on some very, very difficult spots. So we'll see that right after a short break. We'll be back in about 10 minutes, so, you know, coffee, water, stretch, practice if you're a speedrunner and you're not sure on Spectral, maybe like getting the feel back on and being sure you can beat the game on time. But yeah, we'll be back in 10 minutes. Take care of yourself, and 2 remaining games, Spectral and Area of Sorrow, coming up next.
It's good.
And welcome back. You know what else is good? We were talking about speedrunning, obviously, but the end of the Last Chance tournament happening right now. So we have had a bunch of runs, a lot actually, in the past 2 days, and it's all coming down to Spectrable and Aria of Sorrow for whoever will qualify to the grand final happening on Speed Gaming next week.
That's right. It's something to look forward to. Our competition today seems to be mostly decided, but the grand finals next weekend is going to be anything but. We can take a look at the leaderboard to see what I mean. There is 120 points separating fourth from third, 50 points separating third from second, and 170, which is a massive number, separating second from first. So unlikely to see much leaderboard movement across these next 2 games. And fourth is the cutoff. We will be qualifying the top 4 for grand finals today. So Sailing to Mars, 300 points back from Barramundo. Pretty much not happened over 2 games. So we pretty much know who our 4 qualifiers are going to be. We're just we're speedrunning for the sake of speedrunning, sort of. I mean, you can't just say we're going to stop here. It's a decathlon. You still need to do the other 2 events, and maybe an act of God will change the results in some way. But barring that, we'll have our 2 cool races of cool games.
Barramundo not finishing the next 2 games would bar them from actually qualifying, I guess. San de Mars is actually going to beat them on that front if they don't beat the game. So I mean, the UD is all about being able to beat all the games. Obviously, it has been a hard journey for Barramundo, San de Mars, and LF, but they're still very much in there. I'm a bit sad for LF because they've been putting a lot of effort in speedrunning the UD6 game. Maybe not as much as the other guys, but they're still very, very strong. And they've been close to qualifying like every single tournament from July, August to September, and it's been a troubled journey for them. Sometimes even like he's one of the players that actually ran a tourney while at work, so you know that shows dedication, and clearly it hasn't been so great for this particular tourney, so it's going to be interesting to see how far they go on Spectrable. Spectrable, that weird ball physics-based game that tripped up a lot of players during the UD6. It is the game where you can rack up the most points because world record was held by a single guy, challenged world record at 10 minutes back then, and UD came in with hundreds of runners, and time has shrunk quite a little bit.
Yeah, you made the prediction, like having run this company a couple times before, they see the patterns of this kind of thing where when you throw a ton of people at a game, they're going to find all kinds of new things that one person can't find on their own, and the time's going to drop. So we set the 200-point mark ahead of the world record, which is normally, you want the 200-point mark to be achievable by players within a limited amount of time, so it's generally not world record is where it ends up, but you set it past the world record, and then everyone totally exceeded that. It is the easiest game to get 200 points in of the bunch, and some players have pushed as high as 250 points. No, 249, but very close to 250 points, and certainly it's Brother Main actually got up to 251. Yeah. I take it back. I forgot that he took that. Super Link got also at 242. So there's a ton of points to be gained. If you're interested in seeing Mel West pull 2,000 point decathlon, he's going to need to pick up over 200 points in Spectrable, and with that 249 PB, certainly capable of it. But it is a very hard to be consistent in.
It is certainly pretty difficult. We can see the PBs of the players. Mel West, big minute ahead of the rest of the competition. Actually, about like 100 seconds faster than San de Mars. So we'll see how well they do. Gus Dest has been very consistent sub 10. And before the race starts, I will just take the time to talk about the Ultimate Finals. It is happening live. Only the top 4 is actually playing, but everybody can come and watch. So if you'd like to do so, there is like a support page where you can buy your tickets, if I can find the link for that. And it is actually a pretty cool event if you want to come. So Spectral starting right now. The weird physics is showing right away with the bounces on the waterfall all the runners are attempting. Melwest actually resetting right away. Everybody but Melwest actually passed quite fast. Sandemars and Melwest on the same exact jump. And Ghostdeath and Barramundo actually progressing, climbing the tower. Barramundo currently in first place. Superling got a little bit behind, but not by much.
Vandal was taking a long way around on that first. Didn't want to bother with the weird waterfall jump. There's really not too much to it. You just kind of slam into it at a certain angle. It gets you up there. And it's something that players have got mostly consistent with, and there's more things like that we'll see in level 2. With the pyramid, Barramundo might be the first one to show us, as he's already done with the first level. Ghostdeath now also done. Melwest, Salient to Mars, very close to each other, wrapping around this little ramp here and shooting into the exit. Level 2 has this big skip and jumping over to this ramp and then leaving the ramp because it's slow to go all the way up and over, so just skirt around the edges of it. But it's this pyramid here where you get your, similar to the waterfall, physics slamming, hoping, praying situation. Right here, he's going to jump and then double jump into it, and he's going to get the height he needs.
Nice.
This looks fairly simple, but it is a bit trickier than it appears.
Melwest is slowly but surely catching up with Ghostdeath. That single jump passes for Melwest, but doesn't for Ghostdeath. Ghostdeath has to restart again, but Barramundo is already done with the level, starting the Lava 1 with the most spectacular skip, abusing the arrow and the boost mechanics. You can actually skip the entire level because all of the game is like based around collision, friction, and actually not touching anything. And as you can see right now, Barramundo actually touched the slope here, and that stopped immensely his boost. Comparing to what he's able to do right now, he's actually going for the safer route, and Melwest is catching up with them. Like one single mistake, and Melwest is going to catch you.
Finishing the third level in almost synchronization there. Melwest and Barramundo both moving on to Snowy Peaks now, also finishing the third level. Will be right behind them. Snowy Peaks, usually the level that will really catch Barramundo. The resetting there. The wall here. If you hit it, it's going to take away all your speed and slow you down in a pretty nasty way, but at least you're not dead. Melwest almost hits the edge of the ledge there, but able to sneak up onto the ledge, and he'll be getting a very important checkpoint. So he is going to be resuming this square corkscrew section. You can shave off some of these corners by rounding them. They have some ledges on the edge, so it's very tricky to do. And most players are much more safe and cautious about how they take each of those turns heading into the last section over the ice blocks. There's a couple different routes you can take to approach the exit. We'll see what Melwest decides to do here.
Melwest did not move the camera around, and he's going for the newer and the safe way to do that skip, going all the way to the left and then landing and then double jumping, but executing it quite nicely. Barramundo does the same thing, and this is actually like some of the few strats that has emerged from compared to the old world record. Like usually, obviously runners go faster, but also like in a much better and faster, safer manner. So it's pretty nice to see all those different routes. Very nice skip, and Melwest barely touches the what's that? The iron rod there. Yeah, the pole. I do not know if it actually supports anything because everything is floating in the air. So Melwest dying and resetting his boost, and actually I don't know what is
potentially getting passed by Ghostdeath here. Barramundo, both of the different approaches this section, rather than go for the difficult trick that Melwest is showing just how difficult it is. They're navigating the level as closer to as intended And Ghost Death actually doing a big boost, doing some crazy stuff here. Everyone approaching this section differently. Melwest hits the pole but holds on, but
he's
doesn't have the speed to
go
continue.
for the craziest skip. He wants to do all of it in one go when you actually like could do it in a couple of steps. But finally he gets it. But everybody passed him. Sadly, Saint-Demars is right behind them right now and just going for the regular route, I guess. Well, Bermundo is almost done already. Ghost Death had to reset, sadly, lost a lot of time there, but still ahead of Melwest. Bermundo finishing the level. Do note that in every single level, especially in Sky Ruins and Space Construct, touching the end, like precisely like the runners are doing, is actually way trickier than it looks. You might overshoot it or undershoot it or be slightly off to the right or to the left and miss at the actual exit. So it's just landing precisely there is just a huge feat in itself.
There's pretty much every level some kind of ridiculous jump into the exit, and no jump to the exit is more ridiculous. The final level, we'll see that in a little bit. Barramundo is about a third of the way through. The Towering Mountain, it's when the levels start to get pretty long. A lot of different paths. I'm not sure which ones we'll see the players take, ignoring the boost ramp there and trying to hold directly into the wall with the jump, and then the double jump to barely pop himself up over the edge. And he's looking pretty good. It did take 2 tries there, but there's a lot of not getting things on the first try in this game. It's more about with it and not getting hung up on things again and again.
Nice jump here. You saw Bermundo actually jump in the boost rather than rolling into it. Once again, the friction and the collisions in these games are weirdly put together, and everything is going to slow you down so much that you just want to take advantage of actually jumping. We are playing with the double jump ability, by the way. You can set up the game with like 3 different settings: double jump, teleport, or break, and it will make for different speedrun categories. The double jump actually makes for a very nice skip and still looks watchable, so that's what we chose for UD6. Bermundo showing off a different route than what Melwest is doing right now. Melwest went to the left when Bermundo took right, and they should be fairly even out of this section, supposing that they both like make it safely to the exit. That pillar here is where Melwest is going to pass, is going to cross with Bermundo. So very nicely done by Bermundo, actually faster than Melwest. And nice jump here, interesting cut. You need to land all those jumps together if you are going to make it. They don't have the boost here, but still make it nicely, and you are going to land to the end right now. Very nice level by Bermundo.
Heading into the final level, Ace Construct, we can take a look at some of the other players. Vandal still in the Sky Ruins, having trouble with that the part that tripped up so many other players. Super Link God also in the Space Construct, actually on the not final elevator, but leading up to the most important big trick in the game, running off this side of this ramp. Exiting the ramp is very difficult. Getting the right angle and speed afterwards to hit the top perfect the way he did is even harder. Super Link God looking very good, trying to finish it out here. One final jump to the exit, really weirdly form floating in space, impossible to tell where you are relative to it, but he finds it, lands directly on the end. 8:31 is going to be the time for Super Link God. That is a great run.
Yeah, that's actually going to be very nice for them. That's exactly what they need to stay in the pack. That's not going to allow them to catch up with Melwest, but if you were to guess where all the other runners qualified for the grand final would be, that still would be like a huge help. So the battle for the top 4 next week is going to be very intense. For today though, it's all about practice, and Melwest shown that they might have like some work to do on their strats on Sky Ruin. Maybe they didn't just work today and usually it goes smoothly, I don't know. Still, it's a fantastic run. Nobody gets stopped in that jump anymore. Like it's okay. It's everybody. It's like Golgotha 14. Everybody knows exactly how to clear that single jump without getting stopped too much. Ghost Death right now, same story again, passing the obstacle without any issue. Landing, though, is another story, and they chose to die, but sadly they touch a checkpoint, so they will have to go with climbing the tower normally.
That is pretty unfortunate. Also unfortunate for Barramondo, who escaped the loop on the first try, like you said, but was unable to get the follow-up afterwards, sort of trickled off, and is once again at this loop. Melwest has finished. His time was like a 9:40 or so. But a minute off our top finisher in Super Linka, so very dominant performance from him in this game. Barramondo is going to be able to land on the wants to actually right on top of this box that is kind of hard to get onto. The nice little skip here, so that is very important, because if you miss final jump, you don't want to have to do the loop again. So one final jump for Barramondo. Is he going to get it? Yes, he is.
Almost landing on it. Ghostdeath actually chose to restart the entire level. That cost them a lot of time, and time is worth a lot in Spectrable. It's 1 point every 3 seconds, so you'd rather not have to restart the entire level. But they finally made it, touched the checkpoint here, and they will safely maybe land on that ramp and beat the game. But yeah, they lost a lot of time. They probably will be a bit disappointed with their performance here. Had to restart because the speed was not enough to reach the end. And LF is almost going to catch up with them, so they have to hurry up if they want to beat the game on time. And yeah, a couple of restarts here. That final jumps, that final ramp is actually not easy at all. That's why you see weird angles on the camera from the runners. That's the camera angle, weirdly enough, affects your speed and your momentum as well. The game, like, it's a mystery. The game is weird, but it's done for Ghostdeath. GG to them. Superlingot pulled off the best race time in the entire UD6 with their 8 minutes and 20 seconds, which is crazy good. And we were focusing on for the players, so we did not get to see too much of it, sadly.
Yeah, we pulled him up with the 8-player view and saw he was in the construct ahead of our top runner on stream. LF has pushed the box into the corner in kind of a weird way, so he is going to have to fish it from the corner in order to safe. He does get his checkpoint. And Sailing Demars did indeed pass him, like you said. Sailing Demars got caught up on the magnet beams a little bit, the tractor beams on that S curve, but second try he was able to make it happen, and then finished very strong on the final jump to the tower, as well as, of course, the final jump to the exit, like we just saw from LF. So all eyes now on Vandal, who is yet again going to try to finish another game as close to the times up off as he can, because apparently that's what he's here to do. He did a fantastic job on trials. We'll see what he has in store for us. On Spectraball, the cutoff is 15 minutes, and he still has the whole space construct left to go, so he's going to need a really good tower to finish things off. Phenomenal space construct, get in there in time. Not sure it's going to happen, but we'll take it, basically.
Time is ticking. It should be alright, at least to beat the towering mountain. Beating Spectral on time it's one of the easiest tasks you could start to accomplish in the UD6, along with Cuphead. The difference between Cuphead and Spectrable is that grinding points is actually way more exhausting in Spectrable, like the physics you have to tame and all the weird bounces and all the knowledge you need to have on some strats, like that jump, and all the menuing, and the fact that the menuing is not possible using the controller. You have to revert to mouse control, which kind of sucks. That's why a lot of players are actually playing with a combination of gamepad plus mouse. Like, it's a weird one. So players took the time to figure out what was best for them, and Vandal should be able to beat the game, the level soon, entering Space Construct. If they don't miss that single arrow, obviously. Once again, landing on the spot on is difficult, and you can see that the game is weird. Like, that platform, the end of the tower and mountain, is actually kind of floating in the air. It's not strictly linked to the platform beneath. It's pretty weird. But time's up. Vandal will not have the time to beat Spectrable, and it's almost the end of the day. 7 p.m. 40 minutes here. That's almost noon. The start of the afternoon for you in the East Coast, and we are going to start the final game, 10th game of the weekend, Eye of Sorrow.
Yeah, it is a bright and optimistic part of the day, but here in Toronto, nothing has been bright and optimistic about the weather. It has been clouds for like 9 days straight, and it's starting to get to me. I'm a little sad, but I'm getting much happier watching these guys do some speedrunning. Super Link God with the 8:20 in the extra ball. Fantastic West, almost a minute 20, and both players quite a bit ahead of all the others. Barramundo another 50 seconds, no, minute 50 seconds back from Mel West. Everyone pretty much finishing under the 12-minute mark. Sailor Mars LF just a little bit over, and we've seen times well from really strong players. It's a very difficult game, and it's the one of those games with the quicksand sort of effect, where one thing goes wrong and it's easy to brush that off, but the second thing goes wrong and the third thing goes wrong, and oh man, it can really start to spiral out of control. We saw that actually from Mel West as well as Double Tifa in the July tournament, and it's nice to see Mel West bounce back from that with a really strong 10-minute time. In terms of points, though, he's left himself with the need to pick up 219 points in Castlevania Aria of Sorrow if he wants to hit that ridiculous 2,000 point mark. His PB is a 215, so he's going to need a PB. It's not a big PB, but it's still a PB, and it's a difficult game.
Yeah, they'd need like the run of their life. Like, it's not impossible. The world record is way past the 220 mark, but it's anything sub 35 happening alive is crazy. That also means they take no safety whatsoever. They can, like, they have enough of a lead to go for that, but do they want to risk it? Like, morally, do you go for no save, no heal, no potion, no extra gold, no nothing, just to be able to get that time? I'm not sure. Like, they still have like 2 other tourneys if they do qualify to the Ultimate Finals to get to the 2,000 mark. I'm not sure how confident they are with that goal, and I'm not sure if it's even reasonable. Like, if you take too many risks, what's going to happen to you maybe is actually score 0. So I don't know. We'll see. Mel West has been surprising throughout the entire tournament. This is the first time we see them live in a while, and the route has even changed vastly since we've actually talked about Mel West and Eye of Sorrow. Like, I do not know if they go for the lubricant route or if they do go for the regular new route. We'll see. What they choose to do, but. For now, the runners are getting prepared. Eye of Sorrow, fantastic GBA game. The game collection on that console keeps on surprising me. There are lots of games I need to pick up and play, but Eye of Sorrow and the entire like trilogy of Castlevania games on that specific console are they're all amazing. Eye of Sorrow is arguably the best in my opinion, and the speedrun is just great, thanks to the RNG manips, but do imagine what the game would be if you could not manipulate the drops.
Yeah, well, for this category, because there are those 3 required souls. One of them, of course, comes from the boss, but the Flame Demon and Succubus, you would just have to kill them over and over, I guess, until you got the soul. Flame Demon, that's not so bad. I can't remember what the soul drop rate is on this.
It's 15%. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, but it's also not great if you're trying to speedrun, relying on literally just a 15% chance that something happened. Not the best. Thankfully, not going to be a problem for our players today. In terms of what Mel West is going to do, if he's going to go all out to hit this ridiculous number, I can't become aware of the fact that it's mostly us who are projecting this 2,000 point goal onto him. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's something he's interested. Maybe he's interested in setting the best decathlon run of UD SAR. That belongs to Devil Tifa currently with 1901. It's a low 1900s to do better than that with just a regular solid Aria of Sorrow. So could be that is what he is aiming for. We can see all 7 players have almost gotten ready for to enter their names into Mars, and most everyone is practicing this creaking soul manipulating in the moments leading up to the race. Stanley DeMar's cutting it pretty close. I don't know if he's going to be able to get to that name select. Oh, there with the load state. Got the is in. I'm not sure what the significance of Gilbert is for Vandal's name. Maybe
it's
you can shed some light there. Yeah,
it's just like a French first name. I'm not sure. Like probably a reference to the second account of Le Chamut, the guy behind the production value and a lot of videos editing you've seen on the UD channel and or tourneys. So his secondary account is called Gilbert. From his like living room computer actually. So Twitch account, so that's probably where it's coming from. But like yeah, big shout out to Le Chamut once again, and big shout out to all the runners participating right now and actually picking up the backdash skill that will allow them maybe to do some quick movement like we are seeing a little bit shy, but Melwest is trying to go for some backdashes here and there. Sleep for everybody there. You can see a lot of reset on all the consoles on screens. That's because it resets also the RNG, and we want a very specific but very rare drop from that first boss. The Creaking Skull Soul is going to be a huge help for the first few fights, so everybody is going for that. Nice drops by Melwest. And Bermondo did not get it apparently, or I may be mistaken, but
I'm pretty sure I didn't see its soul. I'm pretty sure. So this is something we saw from Cute Shadow. Missed this soul drop. For most players, they've only learned how to get through most of the game with the help of the Creaking Soul, and didn't want to try to go without it. Even though, if you miss it, the fastest thing to do is to press on without it. But we saw Cute Shadow do that. They knew the strats that they needed to do to make do without the Creaking Soul, particularly on the first 2 bosses you face. And Barrelmo is going for it. He's very good at this game, so I wouldn't be surprised if he knows the strats to make without the soul as well.
Goes is having trouble making that jump without the flying armor, but finally gets it. Sadly, this is like the detour to get the flying armor costs a lot of time. Gozdes is the least confident of all the runners we have on screen on Aria of Sorrow, and also probably the least experimented runner of the bunch. And this is the first time, like the first UD where they are actually speedrunning, the first time they are actually speedrunning, also the first time they're doing like multiple speedruns in a row like that. They've done it on the finals for the during August and September, but that's about it. And it is a tiring experience. You need to practice for that. I know they've been doing that on their free time to learn and react to the stress and the fatigue that could cause, but yeah, maybe that's probably not helping them going through Aria of Sorrow. So there will be a little bit behind. I'm very happy with how close Melwest and Super Lingard are, like tied to almost the pixel right here, going for the same backdashes. Melwest failing one. See how much that costs. Like it's amazing how much time you lose if you fail a single backdash.
Yeah, when you have 2 places close as Melwest and Super Lingard are, you can actually kind of see the difference between the 2 of them with the missed backdash and not. So hopefully they stay close together and we can see some more of that. We can see the Creaking Skull Soul rather, being put to use to take care of some troublesome enemies that are in the way. Certainly that is one use of it, but the biggest thing is going to be on this upcoming boss fight. No refills or saves from either player Melwest or Super Lingard as they charge, hitting the door, and the screen transition just frames apart. We can see this Creaking Skull Soul doing tons of damage to this boss, like 50 compared to the 9 that they're doing with their regular attacks. Super Lingard with the slightly better fight, mostly I think due to his better slash canceling. being done by Creaking Skull, but your slashes do add up, and he was able to get the slash canceling a little faster, by jumping, attacking in the air. You can jump into it again as soon as you land. It lets you sort of speed up your attack speed. It's pretty tricky to do. You're constantly feathering the jump and attack buttons on the controller in a specific rhythm. So moving in and out of the Chimera's attacks is pretty tricky. So hats off to Super Link God, earning just a bit of an advantage over Mel West there.
So Baramondo went with the Rapier backup, so that deals 17 damage. Instead of only the 9, so that's actually pretty good. But the fight is still very much longer. That's where the most time loss occurs when you don't have the Creaking Skull soul. So it's okay. They kill the Manticore, and they move on. And Mel West just a little bit behind Super Lingard, missing some more backdashes. And we are at the point where they missed like 3 or 4 backdashes already, so they need like 40 successful backdash for that to be worth doing. So I never know. And Super Lingard like missing 1 backdash at the worst time here, actually costing them a lot of time and a lot of HP. So I'm never convinced by the backdash strat, especially in the UD. Mel West is actually going back to farm on the. What is he doing? He's going to save. Wow,
I think he's getting he got cursed and lost all his mana, yeah. So he doesn't like trying to go through that fight. He was also low health, so he's going to refill on both, and this backtrack has lost him a lot of time. Ghost Death overtaking between the two of them, and it's pretty interesting, and it's also says a lot about Mel West's mindset. Like, he's certainly not going all out or anything to try to get some crazy time. He is totally willing to play it safe, do what he needs to do to finish with a solid time.
I like that. To be honest, for Mel West, I like that they're going to they're matured into a very intelligent and strong speedrunner. Like, they used to go all in, whatever the cost, and that may be costing them some races or some like runs. And now they know exactly their limit. They know way more about themselves and about the game than they used to do, and it shows like some more interesting performances, and just them reacting correctly is just great. They're picking up the Malphas Orb here, something Super Lingard actually chose to skip, which is interesting. You need some mana, and Super Lingard had some troubles, but they went saving right after that. So Mel West is probably not going to stop in the safe spot after the Minotaur here, just going straight back up. Ghost Death is a little bit ahead, but not by much ahead of Mel West. They're not going to save either, so the race is very close between those two. Super Lingard is way ahead, and Baramondo is actually struggling because they do not have the Creaking Skull.
Yeah, hitting the Great Armor with your basic weapon is quite difficult with the way it moves back and forth, and you have to duck and get under the shield, and he was in trouble. He had actually already used his potions, and I was going to say, like, oh man, he's in trouble, but then he recovered really nicely, got into a groove, and then just lost it just like that. Walked into the armor, then got followed up by the sword right afterwards. That is a death that's going to cost, in addition to the time he's already lost by not having the Creaking Skull. And I will update the game list so that everyone watching will be able to know the name of the wonderful game, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, and maybe you can go play it yourself. But for now, you can sit back and watch the players as they, both Ghost Death and Mel West, get set up for this tricky backdash jump. Talk about this yet, but using the dash to skip. Wait, maybe we did touch on it a little bit, but it is quite difficult to get your inputs right, to let go of the D-pad, basically, to preserve the extra speed from the backdash and to make those jumps. So it's an awkward input. It trips up some players, but he's back on track.
Yeah, Mel West got sadly tripped up. The Imp moved to the wrong position, so when they succeeded on the second try, the Imp was right there waiting to knock them back down to the ground. So sadly had to go again, and that's how Ghost Death is keeping pace with Mel West, just due to very tiny mistakes by Mel West, allowing them to stay on track. I love Metroidvania speedruns because at the start, usually it goes with the correct route, and immediately, like 10 minutes in, you can see some interesting route change. Super Lingard going to directly fight Death. That's not where you want to go when you are so low level and so low HP, but it's okay. It's a speedrun. We go as fast as possible and we'll manage with the difficulty. Ghostdeath, in order to manage with that difficulty, went to the shop and actually bought extra potions on their way to death. If you're not sure you are going to make it in one piece, that sounds like good advice.
Super Lingard into the skull to clear out these really troublesome enemies. Anything that flies really sucks in this game, basically. And the way the Creaking Skull sweeps out over you and behind you even is quite useful. He's heading towards the clock tower. This is a sequence break getting here early, so the enemies in the clock tower are quite difficult. I mean, even in the gardens, they're pretty difficult. If you stop to fight these werewolves or the Manticore Chimera, whatever it is, that is literally was just minutes ago is now a regular enemy, you will find they are all quite difficult, so we are going to mostly be minding our own business, making our way through the tower, and picking up a much-needed weapon upgrade.
Yeah, finally getting something that actually deals damage, because those guys are still using the basic, like, sword. Like, they got it right at the start of the game, and clearly it's put there for you to pick up and actually have something to use, but right now they need something else. So using the winged skeleton soul, throwing spears here, Super Lingard finally gets the Mistletoe. So that's a light elemental weapon that is going to deal a lot of damage to Death, and that's going to be much useful because Death has 4,400 HP, and that means you need to hit Death 100 times, and that's a lot. That's a lot of hits, that's a lot of dodging you have to do. Death deals a lot of damage, and you are totally not supposed to fight it right now. We do not have any good armor, and it's a tough fight. That's the biggest thing you need to work on when you start speedrunning the game. That's why even experienced runners here are going to save, because that's what you want to do. So Super Lingard entering the fight right now, Ghostdeath entering the clock tower, Melwest just got the Mistletoe, Barramundo is a little bit behind, will move on and get to the clock tower, but the runners are spreading apart right now.
Yeah, Super Lingard has pulled ahead by quite a bit, mostly due to some missteps from Melwest and Ghostdeath of a variety of natures. That was a new one for me on that double backdash jump. But it's Super Lingard who is in the lead in our main four now, doing a pretty good job of stutter stepping away from the lasers. They will sort of track wherever you are. You need to move out of the way so you don't get hit, but you also don't want to far away from the boss because you want to come back and start dealing damage. So stutter step, a nice for doing that whenever you can. He's up to the second, and he gets a really hard kill with pattern right off the start. He does have some potions. I don't think Barramundo will. Actually, I don't know. He resets, so I don't know if he's going to have more potions. Super Lingard certainly wishes he had more potions. He is down to 58 health and still a lot of hits left to go in this fight.
That's some very unfortunate patterns as well. He has to get like his dodging spot on right now because he will die eventually. No! Yep, he went for too greedy of an aggression here, but they saved right before death, so that's good for them. But they took like a couple of seconds to, get their head back on their shoulders and get everything together again. Ghostdeath just passed barely Super Lingard, and Melwest pulled back first on the competition there, starting the death fight. Once again, it has a lot of HP, and Melwest doesn't have so many HP. I wonder if they actually healed before the fight started.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He definitely seemed willing to be safe and back to a save room to refill before the Great Armor, which is a fairly straightforward fight compared to the notoriously difficult fight that is the death fight, so it would be pretty surprising if he did. We got the second phase also for Super Lingard. Goes to be pretty close. Yeah, there he is moving up phase as well. And see, Mel West took one hit on the boss and then jumped over. That time he managed to get two because he was already most of the way through one. But you really don't have a lot of time to dodge that scythe. It moves very quickly. So Super Link God went for one hit too many on that previous attempt and paid the price for it. Mel West gets the kill. He's going to be the first one done with the death fight. Super Link God not too far behind, but he did take a hit there, so he's going to open up the window. This is Ghost Death, pardon me. He is going to be still about halfway through, I think, through the second phase. He does not get into the air high enough to dodge the scythe on that one. He can take that hit and one more, should he need to, but he'd rather not need to. Super Link God picks up the kill on Death as well. Death is going to be happy to have caused Death to suffer a death. And hopefully no more deaths for anyone.
Yeah, Death died. Nobody can die anymore. Well, actually, that's not true. A lot of very difficult sections are coming because obviously the runners still have to go through the majority of the game, and they're not going to farm much more anyway. So they picked up 2k gold here on the way back to the start of the game, so they can buy a lot of potions. Potions are going to be very important, both like mana and health potions, because we are going to use a lot of magic to kill the remaining bosses. So up next, now that we killed Death, we can go underwater. So the underground reservoir is the area that was barred from us, and we are going to go through that to get to the arena where the Flame Demon is waiting for us, Balor with the Giant Bat is waiting for us, and that's going to allow us to get to the top floor. So only 2 small sections left, and we'll be able to get to Dracula's room. But first we need to get to do some shopping for Mel West, selling everything they have to buy only potions and the war fatigues.
Yeah, and then not even putting them on, so like literally just walking around naked for a little bit here, just because you don't need the armor just yet, and you're going to be opening the menu to equip another item in just a moment, because of course you aren't going to want a weapon in this game, and they will be picking up a nice replacement for Mistletoe and Rahab's sword, waiting for them in the underground waterway. It's just a little ways away. Barramundo into the death fight is most of this first phase, doing stutter stepping. Ghost Death is pretty low on health. He ran into some trouble picking up the money for this shopping trip. There's a little detour, a tiny little detour, like $1,000, and getting there causes a bunch of Medusas to spawn. The Valkyries swoop in. There's spikes, and it can go really wrong really fast. But he took his lumps and he's made it through. He's going to go ahead and talk to Mina, I think her name is, for the health refill. And he will begin his shopping as well. Barramundo's second phase of the death fight has enough health to take it one more hit. Hopefully he doesn't have to. Gets the jump over the scythe as Mel West and Super Link God are moving through the waterways.
Yeah, I do recommend, by the way, watching the tasks for that game, like any category, but especially the glitchless All Souls. It's a fantastic piece of speedrun, and like this game can get very, very technical, to say the least. I will not spoil it for you, but when you have to move like slowly and with your human hand on the controller, we will actually get the Rahab sword here to deal some more damage, and that's just going to be used to kill the upcoming Triton and then the Flame Demon, but it's not going to put too much more use. But it's not too far of the way, and we had only our fists, remember, so we needed something to pack a punch. There is a safe spot here, but totally ignored by Mel West and Super Link God, I guess. And those two are very close together, like tied to just the floor of that room. And oh, actually Super Link God gets the refill, but doesn't save. I'm not sure if that's... Yeah, its saving takes about like 4 seconds, so you might want to save those.
I see, I knew it. I knew that room, it felt like it just as a copy-paste halfway down, but I wasn't sure. But then watching Mel West and Super Link God appear to be in sync with each other for several seconds, when in fact one was at the top of the room and one was at the... is finally confirmed. Mel West, so a little further along, is taking quite a lot of hits, damage boosting through the enemy more, and he's going to have to heal up because he is getting ready to need another manipulation of a soul drop. The Triton Soul gives you 16 strength, which gives you 16 damage, and that's quite a lot. Enemies have a lot of defense. We don't have a lot, so this 16 damage ends up being a rather large increase in damage. So we are going to be doing our little dance here with some extra slashes and things to move the RNG counter along. Once he pulls out that victory horn, that you're pretty good in your setup. So he's got the Triton Soul, but the manipulations are not done yet.
Yeah, this board has a ton of those. You need a good sword and the Flame Demon Soul. So we are entering a double manip section here. Melwes first equips the Triton Soul, then Sleep to reset the RNG. 2 hits on the wall on the left, then he's going to move on. You do have to be sure you're moving the correct way, because the attacks and the movement of those 2 enemies are going to change the RNG. That's why you need to stay very close to the Flame Demon, drop the Leviathan, and then a couple of switchbacks with 1 extra hit will shift the RNG to the exact spot where the Flame Demon does this weird animation with his arms. You kill it on at the correct time and you get the drop. That's pretty magical. That puts everything about randomness in perspective, but it allows you to move on, so that's pretty cool. Oh, and that drop was not not part of the manip. You do not want extra souls because it stops you.
Yeah, some of them can maybe help a little bit. You know, you can pick up an early strength upgrade from like a Minotaur or something, but for the most part, they're not helpful. Immunity to petrification, I feel like, you know, might have been good in the clock tower. Maybe you would bother to put that on if you had it, but probably not going to be worth switching to at this point for Mal West, who showed off another miss backdash there. Has been trying to throw them in a little bit. We were seeing guys go nuts with this backdash back in the July tournament in Delphi and Mel West. We're all doing it, and we're all doing it fairly well, perhaps well enough to really save time with it. It was very impressive to see, but I think you're right in that Mel West seems a little more timid with them. We'll certainly do them in certain points where they matter, like that room with the break that you dash through just in time to avoid before the scream. I think we'll definitely see it then. Getting an uppercut from the werewolf, which has now put him out of sync with the knife, the flying knife, or whatever this is. But
the evil towel.
That was a lot of hits.
Yeah, the were-jaguars actually pack a punch, and you do not want to get hit, and those towels as well, so that's why Melwes killed them. And getting a fortunate level up, leveling up will give you extra strength, and that means just 1 extra damage per hit on Balor. It doesn't mean it's going to make much of a difference, but you'd rather have the level up before the boss rather than after. So Balor is an interesting one, a giant dude killing the giant bat beforehand, and then, you know, he's going to try to crush you, but if the fists move together as long as you stay in the middle and it has like a nice regular pattern, as soon as you get hit or get out of sync, they will like desync a little bit, and that can bring a lot of trouble, but Melwes got a nice first phase and then gets hit a couple of times. He has to be careful, but Balor is almost dead, but so easy. Okay, nice.
Timing your jumps properly to consistently be hitting that weak spot that is up high while also avoiding the fire waves is very tricky. Most players will get caught once or twice. Getting caught by the very first 2 had me a little worried for Mel West, but he was able to rally and get it done. Super about to transition into the second phase at any moment. Here it is. And we'll see how this goes for him, jumping up nice and high, and he's going to wait a little bit just to make sure that he stays in sync. That time he had to move a little bit away. There's left and right movement that you can do. Very often, if you do start moving left and right, you're not going to be able to jump up and hit Balor right afterwards. You'll have to take a moment to center yourself, so it's kind of a last resort. But he's gone ahead and beaten Balor during that the stream hiccup there, so it's a little climactic, but we knew he was going to do it. West is moving on with the giant bat soul. Death's turn to take a crack at Balor. We can see the creaking skull hitting for almost as much as our main damage, though, but we finally surpassed it with our Leviatane.
Of course, Death getting a lot of hits. 60 damage per hit. I never know, because you do different damage based on the first phase and the second phase, but 60 seems about right. That's the time. Yeah, 99 on the second phase. That's exactly where you want to be. Leviathan is actually a nice upgrade because the older route used to kill Balor with the Rahab sword that deals significantly reduced damage compared to the fire sword here, so that's pretty cool. Melwest is moving towards the top floor, Superling God is right behind them, and Bermundo is just entering the arena, so Ghostess and Bermundo are probably going to give us a cute little high five in the corridor leading to Balor, and the arena, that room where Bermundo is one of the hardest in the entire game, so he is taking his time. Ghostess is actually getting back to full HP, and yeah, here it is. Oh no, it's in the next room actually that they're going to cross paths. While Melwest on the top of the screen is getting rid of all those lubricants and actually getting ready to the triple manip.
Yeah, it steps it up from a single to a double to a triple. First order of business is a Muramasa from the lubricant here. The lubricant, sorry, I knew I was going to do it at least once at some point in this season.
First time!
I knew it. Yeah, it should be Rubicant though. I'm pretty sure. I think they went with the LR switch that is so common in Japanese translations. Either way, he's moving in. Here he does get it. It's the most important one, the Succubus Soul that acquired to get the prop of the game in the category that we're doing, and he's going to follow it up with the last manipulation on the Red Minotaur, so perfect manipulations for Melwest.
Yeah, it is a well-oiled machine, just going with your lubricant thing, but yeah, that did not give any trouble at all. That triple manip is actually super tricky, especially the Minotaur. The Muramasa you will get fairly easily. It's one hit, one miss, and one hit on the lubricant, and then you just punch him with Balor. That means you know exactly how to trigger him for him to attack you exactly on the spot you want, because the Balor punch is slow to trigger. But the Minotaur kill, you need to get the exact double hit on him, and as well killing the Valkyrie at the same time, and that's pretty tricky. Superling God did miss it, so he's going for the backup here, going to reset and go for the second Red Minotaur. The second drop is actually way easier. Melwest triggering the second part of the first phase on Graham Jones here, where the boss is just going to trigger those meteor strikes going in circles around him. That's where the boss actually takes a lot of hits, and Melwest is going to switch souls to be sure he triggers the correct ending.
Yeah, you don't want to wait too long to do it. It's right here. That's your cutoff for having the correct souls entering the correct ending of the game that we're going to be going for. So we are now kind of well, I was going to say, you're not locked in. I guess you can switch the souls afterwards, because it's exactly what Melwest is doing. To make use of that Red Minotaur soul, it does a ton of damage. Like you can see, we're hitting Graham Jones for 25, and admittedly, we're hitting him 2, sometimes 3 times, but the Red Minotaur soul is 10 times that. So final boss fights end up leaning quite heavily on it, and your ability to open and close the menu, chug potions just to fuel the ridiculous amount of mana that the Minotaur soul fires, ends up being faster than a traditional fight. Things will start leaning that way a little bit. We do get a nice, honest fight with Julius coming up in just a little bit that Melwest will show us, but for now we can look at Super Link God's attempt here at Graham as he teleports into the villain. He's going to go ahead, use some potions, and not quite transition. He wants to get at least one off here, and hopefully doesn't wait too long.
Yeah, you want to be sure, but I'm always like underestimating the ability the runners have to guesstimate the HP of the final boss here, because like it has happened to me during runs that I killed Graham Jones way before, and surely enough, yeah, Superling God was a couple of hits off, and you want, like, ideally you'd be like just one hit of just giving the final blow, having the 3 correct souls equipped, and then reverting immediately to the other ones, but good enough, I guess. You do not want to play too risky. Graham Jones, the second phase with that fantastic sprite that takes the entire screen, and only the tiny middle core is the hitbox you want to hit. and you want to be sure to dodge everything, because once again you will be in a world of hurt if you get touched by anything. But fast enough with the double hits from the Muramasa, Superlink God kills the boss, and Alucard allows us to get to the Black Panther and the Dracula's tunic, because he can sense that we are becoming Dracula ourselves.
Yeah, it's kind of the main story part of the game. If you care to keep track of it, it's pretty hard to keep track of it, especially when we're skipping all the cutscenes. But we can keep track of the fact that Ghost Death did get the Muramasa and Succubus souls and didn't even try for Minotaur. I guess it's something he feels is not quite worth it with the difficulty. So he goes and gets the refill. We got Barramondo also going for... no, looks like he's done with manipulations. Well, he might still need to grab Red Minotaur's shirt, but he definitely got Muramasa and Succubus. So manipulations mostly, and looks like he is going with Red Minotaur as well. So a little bit more work to be done on that front, but most of the players are going to be focusing just on some good old-fashioned execution and I guess menuing, which also goes under execution. It's certainly not to be underestimated, but it's certainly more fun to learn and execute on something like a boss fight that we're seeing from Mel West.
Mel West took a lot of hits. The fight did not start so well. The Death Soul is draining his mana, but dealt a lot of damage so far. 15 damage per hit, but it deals a lot of damage compared to the Balor Punch. So it's unclear what's the fastest, but the advantage with the Death Scythe is that they hit even if when you're dodging. So Julius has an interesting fight, probably the most interesting in the game. You want to keep track on how much you're hitting them, because every 4 hits it will go in the stagger stance and actually become untouchable until he attacks again. And once you've dealt 2/3 of his HP, is going to go into the second phase, where he morphs into the full-pledged vampire killer using the holy water, the axe, and the cross that every in the Castlevania Classic Belmont uses. So it's a pretty fun fight. The music as well, a good reference to Castlevania 1 and 4, and every Castlevania, I guess, has the Vampire Killer track, actually. But here we go, Mel West having a good fight.
This is a really good fight. A lot of players have got a little sheepish when fighting Julius. A certain amount of aggression really helps, because you are getting those hits, which means your 4th hits are coming more frequently, which means you're locking him down more frequently with that stun. So Mel West had a really good fight there, constantly keeping up the pressure and racking up those hits without taking too much in return. We do see players, if they're not playing really safe against Julius, they're usually taking a lot of hits, and they going to open up the menu, dip into their potions a little bit, and they certainly have some potions to spare, but not too many, and you're definitely losing time going through that menu and drinking them in the first place. So time loss counting for double, basically. If you have to open that menu and heal in Julius fight. It's going pretty well for Super Link God. He's jumping rather than ducking to dodge this whip. If you duck, you can get some hits while you're right next to him while he swings over your head. The danger, of course, if you duck, he's going to hit you down there as well. And pretty common mistake for players to make, just because, I don't know, it's a really fast-paced fight. You're never quite sure what Julius is going to do. He's got a lot of different options, dive kicks and slides and things, so you're kind of half guessing a lot of the time, and it's pretty easy to go into that ducking attack a little bit too early.
So Ghost Death just got the Vira, and that's an item they're just going to sell. Mel West just got past the Stolas, and this is the only time we see that enemy. It's a pretty good one, and goes back through a cute selection of a lot of rooms from the castle, and this is the Chaos Realm, where we are going to kill Chaos, like the I don't know what it is. It is just a chaotic fight. It has a good name, fitting name, and it's a tough one. There is a one-frame trick at the start of the fight here that we've never seen. There is no way, no reason not to go for it. Just press up and mash A or B, depending on your control layout. And if you see the red Minotaur going, that means that you get like the frame perfect trick that deals a third of the boss HP in one frame. And if you fail, the red soul you can see turning around here actually contains the red Minotaur axe, so you cannot use it, sadly. So Mel is doing a great job, but taking a lot of hits. They're going to heal. That's the small choice, back to 500 plus HP, and getting a lot of those double hits on those orbs.
It's just about ready to wrap up this fight. There it is, getting his red Minotaur soul back. We'll be seeing plenty of that throughout the second phase of the fight. Ghostdeath is now entering the Julius fight, going to work a little bit. He's using a much safer strategy with Black Panther. A safe way to fight Julius to just Black Panther past him, bait out his attack, and then hit him from behind. So he's going to be leveraging that. Malwest starting the fight now, second phase proper, letting loose with that red Minotaur axe, and you can see just how useful it is, reaching all four corners of the screen, dealing hundreds of damage to all those targets. Very quickly going to be able to kill the 4 eyes, which lowers the defense of the core to something a little more reasonable. Even though the axe is hitting it for like hundreds right now, if you go to hit with your regular weapon, you'll find your blade is dulled quite a bit. Even with all of them removed, we're only doing 22 damage to the core, so we're going to use as much mana as we can to channel those axes and then finish off the rest with the Muramasa. The timer is at 35:10 right now. Melwest's PB is a 34:39, so he is going to wrap up just a moment here, and this is going to be a fantastic.
Melwest, yeah. That time is going to be great, shy of the 220 we wanted, but they played a very nice race, very consistent, took a lot of good decision, and they finished surely in about 35 minutes and 30 seconds, which is one of the best race time we've ever seen. I need to check what's the fastest race, but cannot be too much faster, I guess. Superling got in the Chaos fight, Baramondo against Julius Belmont, and Ghostdeath just in the switching transition between phase 1 and phase 2.
The second phase is honestly a little bit easier in some regards. A lot of the attacks he throws out are much easier to deal with than the whip. The holy water seems to be the thing. Players expect the whip to come out, so they crouch down, and then he just throws the water right in your face while you're sitting there. So that one will catch you a little bit, but generally your damage output tends to go up after he switches phases. So he does it at low health and then dies even faster. So you're generally pretty close to the end of the fight. Ghostdeath gets the kill. Baramondo still going to work for his, getting a couple teleports here. Really not what you want to see. Dive kick so pretty bad. So being not really cooperating here is Julius. There we go. That's what you want him, just standing there throwing axes over your head. That's the dream attack. More dive kicks. How's he doing on health? He's got tons of potions still, so not too much of a concern. Just a little bit of time lost.
Sand Moss just in the middle of the Graham fight. Ghostdeath having trouble navigating the chaotic realm, and Baramondo is going to be right on their tail here. If they have a better movement on the first room, they might catch up. Superling God using a lot of red Minotaur, and the middle, all the orbs, the eyes are done, so just the middle orb remaining, using a lot of Minds Up, obviously, to use all the red Minotaur they can, and you can see a lot of menuing. Menuing is something you need to work on if you are tackling any speedrun that has a menu, like from Mega Man to any RPG, you will need to get that worked on, and Superling God certainly did their homework and beat the game in under 38 minutes, which is a great time. It's going to be about 2 minutes behind Melwest, sadly.
Yeah, he was pretty quick to close the game and move on. I don't know if he's loading up one of the streams to come watch, whatever, but he should be pretty happy with a 38-minute run to close out. He has secured a spot in the grand finals, and best of luck to him as we look forward to some other players here. Ghostdeath still navigating the realm. Baramondo has joined him a little ways back. There's the Stolas. Stolas maybe did it for best video game bird, actually, now that I think about it. It's up there for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is a great enemy. Look at those legs. Like, I mean, who can resist that? And but it's not like it's not a friend. It's not helping you. It's maybe the best bird foe in the video game history. While Espresso is one of the best bird friends. I tuned down my attitude and said one of the best. But,
it's already starting to crack. Just
yeah.
push him a little bit, and eventually everyone will agree with me that Medley is the start the boss fight. Stanley DeMar's doing some shopping like he needs to do to get those potions. All the players did a little detour for the Vijaya knife that is okay, but it's not as good as our Muramasa, and it's worth a lot of money. We're gonna sell it, turn that into potions.
Yeah, Stellace, actually we do not see their attacks, but they do spawn red Minotaurs, so they're pretty good to have farm experience if you want to go and complete the game at 100%. Which means getting all the souls, and that can be pretty difficult if you do not know all the manips in the game to get the correct RNG all the time. Barramundo and Ghostdeath are almost done. Barramundo had a better run on the first phase of Chaos, and Barramundo has a better PB on Eye of Sorrow. His PB is at 34 minutes and 50 seconds, so I guess they're a little bit rusty on the game. While Ghostdeath stay practiced, but their PB is 6 minutes slower than that.
It's been pretty close between Ghostdeath and Barramundo, just mostly through the Chaotic Realm. Barramundo's navigation was able to catch them up, though it's pretty close. I don't know if this is the kind of gap you can overcome through execution on this boss fight. Certainly when slash canceling was a thing, someone could pick up a fair amount of time through better execution of that, but now it's mostly about these menus. So I give the edge in menu execution to Barramundo, I think, of the two. Seems to be a little more experienced. There's also, I guess, a bit of RNG with what this dragon is doing. It's come out where these green orbs are that are so frustrating at times to deal with, but largely I think this is Barramundo is going to finish just a little bit ahead of Ghostdeath. Remains to be seen throwing out those missiles. Also kind of a question of how many mind ups. I don't know if the players have mind up to let loose with those red Minotaur attacks. Still Death, so definitely the edge goes to Barramundo. Cillian DeMar's also on the Julius fight, not second phase. He was doing some menuing to equip what he needs to before also starting the final fight.
If you want a little piece of trivia, I'm always wrong with the Vijaya pronunciation. That's because like it's an item that exists in since Symphony of the Night in the Castlevania game, but it's a misspelling of Vajra, which means sword, or which means thunderbolt in Sanskrit, like in Indian, and like Vajra is an item that you can find in a variety of games, including Slay the Spire recently. And I'm always getting all those mixed up, so I'm sorry.
While we enjoy the origin stuff, Barramundo died, and so dying on the final boss obviously sucks.
Yeah,
he hates to do it, especially after dying to the final boss of Donkey Kong Country. But at least you get to see Soma succumb to the darkness and sit on the throne of Dracula for just a little bit. Is an ending of the game, I suppose, but not the ending we're shooting for. So it's going to be the one to finish ahead of Barramundo after all. And that's, I mean, Barramundo's still going to qualify. He's going to finish. He's still going to have a pretty good run overall, especially without the Creaking Skull. But he's probably not going to feel too good about Grand Finals, knowing that he's had two pretty big blunders right at the end of a run.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate death. It's been a while since we've seen that bad ending triggering where Soma actually becomes Dracula, and I don't know. It's Barramundo is a great runner. They're just a bit rusty, I guess. I wonder if they're going to be able to de-rust or even join next week. We'll see. I do hope they just. Maybe just those runs we're seeing right now are enough for them to come back stronger next week. We'll see. LF is on the Chaos fight. Ghostdeath is done already, obviously. And Cylinder Mars just entered the Chaotic Realm, so they will be able to beat the game on time, but barely. The limit is 47 minutes or 48. And the time is ticking, obviously.
Oh, I thought it was 52. Hopefully my numbers are right and not yours, but yours are more likely to be right, to be honest.
Oh yeah, no, it's sorry, I was adding only 10 to the 200 mark. It's plus 15, so yeah, 52. That sounds about right. My bad. I was like
plenty of time.
Yeah,
for Sailing to Mars to finish here.
They have a lot of time. I obviously mixed up my numbers. The game goes by 9 seconds per point and not 6, which would be insane. So Barramundo is done, but after dying once, they're just behind LF, and once again, that's not going to be the time they were shooting for. And I don't know. I'm a bit disappointed for them. I do hope they're still happy with their tournament, but clearly Eye of Sorrow and DKC did not go as well as they could have. So Sailing to Mars is going to be able to beat the game, I'm sure, if they don't die on Chaos. But it's been a while since we've seen someone die in the final boss.
Yeah, the compared to the Red Minotaur Soul, basically. I guess the Minotaur Master is also there, but it's mostly the Red Minotaur Soul. And in both iterations of that boss fight, it was very uncommon for players to die. I can't actually think of a time that it happened. No, I do remember seeing that picture of Soma on Dracula's throne at least once before, so I think it happened to someone, but it's super rare and very unexpected to happen to a great player like Barramundo. Sailing to Mars also pretty good at Eye of Sorrow. We saw him play a couple games this tournament where they didn't go so well. He wasn't able to finish Metal Slug on time, wasn't able to get there on DKC. His PB is actually like a 70-point PB, so he's well under the 100-point mark. I don't think he was expecting to finish DKC this tournament. But for Eye of Sorrow, he's got a very good 40-55 as his PB, so he's quite a bit a ways away from that. So I don't think he'll be too happy with the way his run has gone, and maybe in some ways the way his tournament has gone. But it has had some really good performances in some individual games, and I think that's something he can feel good about. We'll see how he's able to wrap up the final boss fight of Area of Sorrow, and it's going to be the final boss fight of Sailing to Mars's tournament life, it seems.
Yeah, they haven't beaten the game on time during a tourney, so that should be doing it for them, doing the trick. They're playing very safe, but I totally understand Chaos 1. The first phase here can be a bit tricky. Those Crystal, the green one, hurt a lot, and the Giant Demon is tough to dodge. That's why the players usually focus on the blue soul first, and then yellow, and then red. The double hits from the Muramas deals a ton of damage, so they should be done soon here. Here we go, and entering phase 2. We'll see them probably right now using mana up prism or high mind potion, I guess, to refill. The prism is a full bar, and the high mind up almost makes it there. And taking damage here, you need to keep a good eye on your HP, because it's pretty easy to die on those parts, being juggled between the green orbs or all the attacks that are coming at you. Like, that fight is a giant mess. I'm not sure, but I feel like someone in the dev team developed like a bone worm boss, and they were not sure where to put it, so they put it together with another fight, and it's pretty weird. So it's pretty trippy as well. But in the end, everybody seems to do fine on that, and the boss should be done pretty soon. Sub 50 for Sailing to Mars for sure. Sub 49, I guess.
We'll see just how low his time is. He's got a lot of extra potions to throw into whacking at this core. I don't know if he's going to even need to hit it with his sword, but he is going to have to just a little bit here to finish it off. The worm trying to desperately defend the core, but that's the first time I've ever seen anything resembling the worm looking like it belongs fight, like you said. But that is the final hit delivered for Sailing Stars. That is going to wrap up our October tournament. It's going to wrap up most of the season. There's just grand finals and, of course, our ultimate finals live in France left to play. Let's take a look at the leaderboard, the official times, but we all know that we're going to have our top 4 players going to be the ones to qualify, and here they are.
So, with fourth place at 1576, Bermundo qualifies. So does Gozdes with a total of 1690. Superlingard at above 1834 passes in second place, and Melwest 10 points shy of the dreaded 2K 1990. Qualifier as well, with the best tourney and the best 10 games in a row performance we've seen so far. Very impressive run from all the runners. Big shout out to Silent Mars that stick to us through the entire tourney, only failing to complete 2 games, which is already very impressive. So did the LF with only 3 games did not complete it. And some runners did join for only a couple of games, like Farziel. Vendel did his best to beat most of the games, but had troubles on some of them. Explodio here just came for Shovel Knight, Moonerim just came for Cuphead, and Little My Sebi, Talgar, and Casey did not want it, but maybe did not make it on time on any game, so we never know. LF, Zigugi, Farziel, Sandermoss, Vendel, congrats for all your performances, and big huge shout out to Melwest, Superlingard, and Gozdes and Bermundo. They will come and compete next week on the grand finals, where they will meet our 6 already qualified runners. So Fireman, Skunkoff, Kelpwick, Q-Shadow, Brothermain, and Devil Tifa. It's going to be a very nice and very intense set of races next week, because they're very close together. Like, we are only going to qualify 4, and Gozdes, Kelpwick, Q-Shadow, Brothermain, Superlingard, Devil Tifa, Melwest have a very, very good shot at getting there, but Bermundo, Fireman, and Skunkoff are also possibly like close with them, so it's going to be pretty intense. The total for qualification could be around like 1750 or so.
I don't like the prospect of knowing that 6 of 10 competitors are not going to make it. I think all of them are very worthy of competing in the ultimate finals. So it will be exciting to see, and it will be a little sad for us who wish that that everyone who puts in such a tremendous amount of time and effort were able to get all the way. But someone's gonna win in the end, so we'll have to just wait and see for a whole week. A whole week you have to wait before you find out who's gonna qualify for ultimate finals. It's a long 7 days for some of us, and for some of the players, it might feel like it goes by a little bit too fast. They want that extra practice time, shore up those loose ends, everything that didn't quite work out here and there. They're going to be working on, I'm sure.
Yeah, 7 days in the I don't know how it's called in English, but the time room in Dragon Ball Z is like 7 years, and that's probably what they would need to get spot on world record pace on all those 10 games. But sadly, only 7 days to practice and maybe Jira some games, maybe just get there, or maybe relax and not grind at all. I do not know what the mindset of all those runners what the mindset is going to be anyway. So next week at 5 p.m. CEST, so 11 a.m. EDT, starting on Saturday, we are going to have the final round, the grand finals, the big moment for a lot of runners. 10 runners competing, only 4 will qualify to the ultimate finals. It's the final tournament happening on the internet. The next one is going to be live, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I'm not sure who will make it. I'm not sure how it's going to happen. I do know, though, that both Brothermain and Kelpwick aren't available on Saturday. So what will happen for them is that we are going to push their races to the Sunday. So on Saturday we might have only like 8 players, and on Sunday they will have to do all 10 games back to back, starting very early in the morning. And we are going to cast the races on the Ultimate Decathlon French channel. It's going to be without any commentary, so it's just going to be a nice warm-up for anyone that wants to see more of the gameplay. I do not know the order still. It's going to be decided later, and yeah, it's going to be great. Who's your favorite? Like, what's the top 4 is going to be like, do you think?
Well, I mean, obvious picks are Devil and Mel West. They're quite a bit on the leaderboard, and they seem to be the most consistent performers in races. I would have said Devil Tifa over Mel West, just based on the performance we saw in the July tournament. I feel like we're looking at a different Mel West competing here today. Like you pointed out, seems to have turned a corner, has matured as a person and a speedrunner, and is a huge 1990 on the pier is just massive, and I think it is very well posed to take the whole thing. After Devil Tifa and Mel West, it is a huge toss-up between some of the other players who are competing today and have competed and already qualified in the past. We've got Brother Main and Super Link God and Barramondo, Cute Shadow, Ghost Death, I think are all going to be very close to each other, and I couldn't possibly pick any 2 of those names to advance over the others, and I also rule out all the other players could to maybe take it as well. So above Devil Tifa and Mel West, it's too close to call, man. You won't get names out of me, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, looking at the results, Super Lingard, Mel West, Brother Main, and Devil Tifa are those who come up first, but the difference between Ghost Death, Cupwick, Cute Shadow, and Brother Main is about 20 points. Like, seeing their performances today and what they've done on their respective finals. So, I'm not sure. It's going to be a huge battle for third and fourth, for sure. I do not know how practiced or interested is Devil Tifa. They've had a big series of speedruns with the UD, and clearly it's been a big experience for them, and like UD6 was not maybe up their speed on how things happen, so maybe they will not practice so much and be on par with the others. Maybe they will be way less practiced. So no one, I'm not setting any expectation for anyone. Just being able to beat all those 10 games in a row is huge. So big shout out to anyone that's able to put a time on every single game on the UD leaderboard. And obviously for those 10 players, they are way better than what we could have expected. So anyone deserves to be on top 4. So we'll see. I actually can't wait.
Me neither. If you can't wait and get your speedrunning fix here on twitch.tv/speed gaming, there's all kinds of stuff going on all the time, and what's going to be happening over the next little bit. Actually, we've got Super Metroid: A Link to the Past. Yeah, not the 2 games together. Those were 2 separate games I just said, but they're a crazy crossover randomizer being played on hard difficulty. It's going to start pretty soon over on Speed Gaming. Ori Randomizer continues on 3. It's a Cuphead that we saw yesterday. Here's an all bosses tournament, so you can see a little bit more of the game there happening on Speed Gaming 2 in just a little bit. And if you wait until 4 p.m. Eastern Time, you can see some Chrono Trigger here on the main channel, as well as more A Link to the Past randomizer. Yeah, lots of stuff happening on Speed all the time. That's where you can get some Speed Gaming fix. But if you want UD, you're going to have to wait. When exactly? How long do they have to wait? In seconds.
Wow, in seconds, that's a big ask, but in days, that's exactly 6. So 6 days minus 3 hours and 43 minutes, that gives you 11 a.m. on Saturday. That's a lot of seconds. Do not count, do not wait counting the seconds pass by. Have a good week. Saturday morning, 11 a.m. East Coast. That's 8 a.m. PST if you're back in Arizona or California or Vancouver or all those great cities that sadly are so far away from France. So Have a good week. We'll see you on both Saturday and Sunday next week, and it's going to be the final cast we are going to do for UD6 without being together in the same room, so it's going to be a very emotional moment for both of us and for all 10 players that are qualifying, because it's going to be an intense one. So have a good week and see you on next Saturday.